भाभी को बोलो जज को. Good evening. So a lot of acrimonial things. Then I decided, how do I care? And a lot of people wrote to me that you should never pay attention on social media. But I was bugged by one thing. People calling me drunk or a drunkard. अरे भाई मैं घर में पीता नहीं है, और पीता है तो महीने में 1 pint बियर पीता है. लीवर का इश्यू है. किधर क्या मतलब है? सब लोग लिखता है बेवड़ा है, क्या फूकता है. एक लॉयर है वो बोलता है ड्रंकर्ड है. अभी ऐसी तो औकात है वो लॉयर की, क्यों ऐसे शब्द यूज करने का? ओके, ऑल ऑल थिंग्स आर गुड. नाउ कमिंग टू द मार्केट्स straight away. Sorry. Coming to the markets, bad results, the stock goes up by few points. Mediocre results, stock goes up 2-3%. And somewhat better is stock goes up by 10%, 8%, 9%. So if you sell what is bad, you will end up losing money. There is no point to trade in an artificial market like this. Previously, I had mentioned that you should sell only if it closes about 15,700. Now I have changed my view. I will only sell below 16,200. And about buying, same old stuff I'll buy. Nothing new. No kachra patti, where all the promoters are active. Everybody is active. All sorts of operators and all. So, what I mentioned earlier, kachra companies will remain kachra. You might feel bad about it, but the fact is, those are not investable stocks. Now, this Nifty that has gone up because of two reasons, two or three or whatever it might be. First of all, there is a huge open exposure in calls. So somebody has put in a squeeze on the call writers. So I calculated from 14,000 to 17,000. There are almost 3-4 crore of calls. So I won't be surprised if there is a squeeze in index stocks. Now, so far index stocks have gone up, but along with it, everything has gone up. So I think this will continue for after expiry or maybe next month, because it's a shorter month, 17 days working. This phenomena where people pull up the stocks if the results are bad, then you are playing with the might of the promoter or the operator, and to which we are not are capable of handling. A prime example today, Wipro opened lower and it went up. Now in USA or in other markets, if the results are bad, they bring it down by 10, 20, 30, 40%. अपने वहाँ क्या है 1% ऊपर. So this is an artificial market, out and out artificial market. Or today Tesla announced something and result. It went up a lot. That's the market. इधर अच्छा आएगा, अब 5-7% से ज्यादा नहीं बढ़ेगा. It's a controlled market. And what other thought? This call writers, they are going to have a tough time. And don't be surprised if they take the Nifty up so much that लोगों का प्रॉब्लम हो जाए. रोहित भाई आप आते नहीं हो. और रोहित भाई नहीं.
Sir, make me a host, co-host, sir. I will manage, sir.
हाँ.
If you don't mind.
बोलिए भाई, बोलिए ना. बोलो ना.
Interesting, what you're saying, and I think the last time we were on, that's what I was anticipating also. There will be a short covering. A lot of people were debating the data itself, which is so obvious because it has happened. The same data has worked at least 5 times in the past 12 years. And the same setup was there, which is where I was confident. The only thing is that such extremes in data which lead to short covering rallies have historically occurred either at the bottom of a bear market or in late stages of a bear market. So that is the part I'm trying to figure. But because of its extreme, we will see possibly an overshoot on the upside. But we have reached the first set of levels that I was anticipating, which is 36,300 on the Bank Nifty, 16,600 on the Nifty. Both are achieved. Now the guesswork is whether you will get that final, break higher. We still have a week to expiration. So if we do break higher further, though they could be, I think tomorrow, if you ask me very short term, I would hope that there is a 150 point drop before it goes higher. That will help release some of the short term pressure.
Rohit bhai, I can interrupt you 1 minute.
Yeah.
May expiry was at 16,170. Okay. And June expiry was at 15,780. And it went down the expiry by 1 day. And another thing is, last Thursday only, Nifty was at 15,910 or 20.
Yeah.
Last Thursday. तो अभी इतना बड़ा देता है, सबका पटलू निकाल देता है. See, with money power, you can do a lot of things, but not everything.
Yeah.
Rohit bhai, बोलिए.
So I am anticipating some counter trend pullback, but possibly higher towards 17,000, 17,300. But whatever it is, and as long as this is a bear market rally, then the best case upside also should be complete by next week. I think जो होना है, जितना शॉर्ट कटना है एक्सपायरी तक कट जाना चाहिए, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी आधा से ज्यादा तो कट ही गया है. FI का शॉर्ट पिछले महीने 1,45,000 था. अभी कल के डेटा में 58,000 कॉन्ट्रैक्ट था. आज का डेटा शायद आया नहीं था. तो कट ही रहा है, और वो अगले हफ्ते तक जीरो भी हो जाए तो कोई वो नहीं है. तो एक बार वो हो गया तो देन उसके बाद क्या? तो अनलेस देयर समथिंग फंडामेंटली चेंजेस, तब तक फेड का भी आउटलुक पता चल जाएगा कि आगे वो क्या देख रहा है, क्या सोच रहा है, उसको इकोनॉमिक वीकनेस दिख रही है कि वो इन्फ्लेशन के डेटा को लेबर मार्केट से लिंक करके बैठा हुआ है, जो वो एक फाइट है। लोग समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं कि वो सिर्फ लेबर मार्केट को देख के रेट बढ़ाता जाएगा तो ही विल क्रैश द मार्केट। अगर वो एक्सेप्ट करेगा कि हाँ भाई इकोनॉमी स्लो हो चुकी है, तो शायद बाजार उससे थोड़ा और संभले, और वो पूरा सिनेरियो शायद अगले हफ्ते तक और क्लियर होगा। तो सम बट द टेक्निकल सेटअप इज फॉर अ लिटिल मोर अपसाइड till next week, and then we'll take it from there.
And this market is up because of lever ITC and all that,
Hmm.
and टेक्नोलॉजी। अभी मेरे को समझ में नहीं आता है, तुम टेक्नोलॉजी खींच के क्या करेगा? टेक्नोलॉजी एंड रिलायंस, आपने LIC इज बाइंग बिग टाइम, बाकी सब बेचता है, मारुति, महिंद्रा महिंद्रा। तो पता नहीं क्या हो रहा है। एंड सर अनदर थिंग इज index management is at the pinnacle. It's too
Hmm.
much.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't play
So
indices,
this
but
index
I can
management
feel
trend is
it's very much managed.
yeah, this index management trend is not new. I think almost 7-8 साल से मैं देख रहा हूँ, क्योंकि 2012-13 से लेके 20 तक भी इट वाज गोइंग ऑन। हर महीने वो इंडेक्स कंपोनेंट्स चेंज कर रहे थे ताकि जो वीक हो रहा है उसको हटाओ, दूसरे को डालो। दैट वाज लाइक अ नहीं तो that was one of the weakest periods in terms of index gains, if we even look at it, despite all the changes that they made.
Hmm.
Now this time around, what is surprising is that 8 months after a supposed bear market phase,
Hmm.
the decline is not significant actually, and a lot of stocks are still holding on, like auto stocks and all, which are not really fallen much. Almost makes you feel that this is not a bear market.
Hmm.
ओके, बिकॉज बेयर मार्केट में ऐसा होता नहीं है, काफी कुछ टूट जाता है एक साथ, एक बार शुरू होता है तो द वीकनेस इज प्रीटी प्रोमिनेंट। So these things make you actually think, whether your thesis is wrong or whether there's something else at play. Are there other measures coming or not? So that's a slight complication.
But for this expiry, ये 3-4 करोड़ वो कॉल है, वो तो कुछ भी कर लेगा। अभी 3-4 दिन ही संभलना है ना उसको।
हाँ।
And as I said last Thursday, Nifty was 15,920 or so.
हम्म।
तो सब लोग बोलते हैं ना, वो जुलाई इज द बेस्ट मंथ और बेस्ट। अरे काय का वो तुम खींचेगा ऐसा तो बेस्ट मंथ ही होएगा ना। और बोलिए सर।
हाँ, so yeah, I think if we don't get past what 17,300 or something, and we start falling from there after this spike, then I think the risk to going back to 14,200 is open.
रोहित भाई, फ्रॉम माय
हम्म।
एक्सपीरियंस आई एम से
हम्म।
कि ये लोग ने 3-4 करोड़ कॉल इकट्ठा किया,
हम्म।
फिर लास्ट थर्सडे से उछालना चालू किया। ओके।
हम्म। हम्म।
और अभी भी खींचेंगे।
हाँ।
एंड में क्या होगा, इतना घुस जाएगा ना, वो मालूम नहीं पड़ेगा।
हम्म।
बिकॉज 90% of the call writers are hedged
हम्म।
in some form or other. इक्विटी ले लो, ये कर लो, तो उतना माल संभाल नहीं पाएगा। अगर आपको सपोज 3 करोड़ कॉल है, एक्सपायरी में डालना है, तो वो खाने का खेल नहीं है। बहुत ताकत लगेगा, बहुत ताकत। और इतना 3 करोड़ निफ्टी मतलब कितना आउटस्टैंडिंग हो गया? 16,000 इंटू 3 करोड़, फोर, हाँ, 48,000 करोड़ का माल। उसमें से समझो 10,000 भी आया तो इसका पट्टू ढीला हो जाएगा। तो नियर द एक्सपायरी आई सी something આપણે happening which is not conducive to the market. That's my feeling. ये आप जो बोलते हो ना 17,000 का टॉप लगता है,
हम्म
मेरे को लगता है 16,700 ही से घूम जाएगा, 700 800 से।
हम्म
दिस इज माई रीडिंग। और देखो, शेयर बाजार में कोई वो किसी को फुकट में पैसा नहीं देता है। वो तुम जितना टाइम मारेगा सामने वाला उतना टाइम मारेगा। तो they will have difficulties. And your point is near कि जहाँ से रिवर्स होएगा। और बोलिए रोहित भाई।
Yes, a similar reading even in US, जो मैं शॉर्ट्स की बात कर रहा था, वहां पे इनफैक्ट ऐसा है कि यहाँ पे तो चलो एफआई का शॉर्ट कट रहा है, वहां तो ऐसा हुआ है कि पिछले 3 हफ्तों में 4 हफ्तों में week after week the short position has increased as the market is bouncing. So last Friday it had crossed 200,000
फ्लैश में फोन।
contract in the S&P futures. तो इसलिए यूएस मार्केट में भी वो सिचुएशन वैसा है कि वो शॉर्ट को खींच रहा है।
No, but sir, players in US markets and Indian markets, यहाँ सब लोग 5,50,000 3 लाख मार्जिन से खेलते हैं। वो प्रॉब्लम है ना।
हम्म
अपने पुराने जमाने में अगर अपना ध्यान मंदी है तो उठने ही नहीं देता था बाजार को। पर
हाँ दैट इज वो तो दैट वाज अ कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट एरा। अभी 10 साल में वैसा होता ही नहीं है ना।
हम्म, तो खैर अपने क्या बात करें, यूएस मार्केट में रिजल्ट आता है तो दाब करके 30% टूट जाता है, इधर अब बढ़ जाता है। ये नॉनसेंस मार्केट है। ये पोली कैप का रिजल्ट आया, इतना गंदा है। वो टीवी वाला बोलता है अच्छा है, तो बढ़ गया, फिर घट गया, फिर बढ़ गया। क्या, देयर इज नो लॉजिक इन आवर मार्केट। भाव के साथ घूमते रहो, घूमते। अभी तो थक गया भाव के साथ भी। और कुछ कहना है सर आपको?
नहीं, आई थिंक दैट्स ऑल ऑफ माय ऑब्जर्वेशंस।
ओके, देन आई विल टेक समबडी एल्स। लो भाई, सबको लो।
या विशाल भाई।
समझ भाई,
पहला,
इट विल टेक मी सम टाइम। आप किसी और को ले लेना।
यस
हाँ
श्रीनी, विशाल भाई इज बिजी। श्रीनी आप बोलिए सर।
Yes, sir. Not much to add. I mean, I'd love to hear. Firstly, Sharad bhai, thank you for having this back. It trolling actually, it got to I think a lot of us because I'm not even an expert. मेरे को क्यों troll कर रहा है public? Saying मजा. So to anyone who thinks I'm an expert, I have to tell them, guys, तुम गधे हो. I'm not a trading expert or a stock market expert. The what it does tell me, I'm a marketer, and I stand by those credits. I track the narrative. So like Rohit and Sharad sir were having like the technical and the real discussion stock market. But it's also a story market. It's a lot about the narrative and the mood. And in the end, through history across countries, end में retail ही बकरा होता है. That is, I think, a golden rule everyone will agree with. So I feel narrative continues to be perfectly. Abhi bear trolling is at a I don't know all time high, but maybe it'll hit new all time highs. Even I can see stock individual stock volumes. They look reasonably fake to me. Sorry, echo हो रहा है.
Hmm.
So from a narrative point of view, we are quite.
शरद सर आपको म्यूट करना पड़ेगा सर आई थिंक ड्यू टू दैट ओनली सर थोड़ा टाइम के लिए
एक मिनट अभी आता है आवाज
आपका आवाज आ रहा है बट
नहीं एको आ रहा है क्या
हाँ सर
एक मिनट
आपके में नहीं आ रहा है मैं बोल रहा हूँ तो आ रहा है
हाँ हाँ
सर आपको म्यूट करना पड़ेगा सर
एक मिनट हाँ हाँ
So quick recap on the results. I mean, so sorry. The last point I wanted to make is so everybody here, please. I request you. I'm not even an expert, but please take ownership of your money and your investment and trading positions. Nobody here is blindly copying or following what somebody is saying. We all listen to each other, exchange thoughts, and we have to go trade or invest from our own conviction. Please don't borrow somebody else's conviction. And even as a newbie, I'm saying this. I can play very well if I'm convinced. Now back to the economy. Three data points. One is now thankfully the FMCG big shots are saying it. तो मुझे बोलना नहीं पड़ रहा है. Mr. Sanjay Mehta has said Nielsen has shown third quarter of industry volume decline. It is a big deal. I called a friend in HUL and said gossip, bata, etc. He gave me one very harsh line. Please, apologies for the foul language. He said, टट्टी करने के बाद साबुन से हाथ धोते हैं ना? I said, हाँ. He says, वो साबुन खरीदने के लिए पैसा नहीं है पब्लिक के पास. फोन रख. Old pal. I mean, we've done sales together in Coke. So this is the state of the average consumer, and I'm going to keep saying it. Of course, stock market will do what it does, but जब भी कोई India growth story and all consumption story पे आएगा, I'm obviously going to present this data point. So it's a big deal if FMCG volumes and basic needs are imploding. Second thing is the Diwali timeline. So the last, I think, narrative in this bullish hype will be bullish Diwali. Now, sales and marketing guys work to timelines. 24th is Diwali. 4th or 5th October is Dashera. Promo and volumes of whatever packs they're going to sell across categories need to be in shop by 15th to 25th September. Everybody has placed their purchase decisions. Everybody is playing it safe. Everybody is planning for not a bonus Diwali. So across durables, across handsets, across FMCG, personal care, across, which is not anyway very sensitive to Diwali, but food, which is quite packaged food, biscuits, mithai, wo sab. So people have already placed these orders. I believe market mein sub mutual fund wale gadhe nahi hai. So people are going to call up people in companies saying what's your Diwali outlook and so on. So they're going to, I think this news will be more public in maybe a couple of weeks. So the rest of the year, from a consumption point of view, is already a write-off, as per everybody I have spoken to, not just HUL. I spoke to a friend in Whirlpool also, and just industry level. I don't need to know the company specific. And back to stock market, story market, it's playing out exactly how Rohit, I think, has called it very well. So we'll see. Rohit is avoiding front running the Fed meeting. I think he's going to come and just hammer the market. I believe his mandate now is a controlled demolition of asset prices, because an uncontrolled demolition forces Fed to do QE, which they can't afford to do another 5-10 trillion right now. So I feel post Fed meeting, fireworks will begin again.
या कारा जी डीजे कारा
Hi, good evening, everyone. Not much to add here. Few percentage bounce doesn't mean the fundamentals of the companies have changed. Today was a good example. You saw Havel's, the worst quarter in the past 10 quarters, and stock was still 2% up. So what theme we are seeing this during this result season is bad results are not getting punished at all. So which is kind of giving an impression that if bad results can't take these stocks down, nothing can. So it's good time to buy. But I continue not to buy for the time being. We'll wait for valuations to reach at decent levels before thinking about it. Regarding Nifty, I think next few days are going to be very crucial. We have some very big results coming in. Infi, Reliance, ICICI Bank, and then Kotak is also due, I think. So Uh, Infi's already gotten beaten down with the other tech stocks, so if its results aren't that bad, I think Infi, Reliance, ICICI could push Nifty a bit higher. So yeah, 17K, 17,200 probably seems like a reachable target, provided these three companies don't give really bad results.
जियो भाई हाथ नीचा करो. Okay.
Yeah, so that's my take on Nifty. Another very interesting point, which one of our speakers, listeners had noticed and brought out to my attention earlier was that whenever Nifty makes 5 consecutive days of gain in a week, the subsequent week can see some big gains. Now, I don't go and backtest this theory, but if
आपकी आवाज ब्रेक हो रही है तारा जी, आपकी आवाज ब्रेक हो रही है.
Samarth, is it better now?
Yeah.
REM. So somebody had brought out a very interesting point that if Nifty makes 5 days of straight gains in a week, Monday to Friday, then subsequent week you can see a bigger rally. So I couldn't get time to backtest this, but if somebody else has observed this or can backtest it easily, I would appreciate if you could do so and let us know your
No, I
outcome.
will backtest it. I'll let you know.
अच्छा सर, गुड है फिर तो.
कोई प्रोग्राम नहीं है फिर भी बैक टेस्ट कर लूंगा.
सर आपको तो सब याद ही होगा.
नहीं, और एक दूसरा बात है, ये जो श्रीनिवासन बोला, एचयूएल वाला बोलता है खराब है, वर्लपुल वाला बोला खराब है, सब लोग बोलता है खराब है, स्टॉक प्राइस ऊपर जाता है. एक क्या हो गया, ये एकदम शुड आई से ये मार्केट is ignoring all the bad news. It is ignoring all the bad news.
Yes.
So it will happen one day. All of us sudden, one bright morning, tuck everything down.
Sir,
You mark my word.
I remember in 2016, and Rohit, I think he left. But at that point of time, Rohit was not very bullish on the Indian market. Nifty was, I think, at 10,400, 500 or something. So there was some monthly technical negative divergence also on Nifty charts, and also I remember having exited in January of 2019 substantially from the markets. I had to actually wait for 1 year and 3 months before the market suddenly crashed during Corona time, and 40% down. So these markets can stay overvalued and keep trapping retailers, and I don't know till when it will go on, but at least in the short term, it looks like another few percentage points of rally in Nifty is there, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay. आज जियो बोलो, हाथ ऊपर कर रहा था, बोलो.
जियो एस्टेट.
नमस्ते सर। सर सबसे पहले तो मैं आपका स्पेस बड़ा अच्छा होता है, लेकिन सर मेरे जैसे कुछ लोग ऐसे होते हैं इस स्पेस में, इंग्लिश समझ में नहीं आती है, बड़े अच्छे अच्छे लोग बोलने आते हैं पर सब वो काला अक्षर भैंस बराबर हो जाता है। तो थोड़ा सा रिक्वेस्ट है कि जो भी स्पीकर्स आए अगर वो हिंदी में कंफर्टेबल है तो कृपया हिंदी में बोले, क्योंकि ज्यादातर मेरे हिसाब से यहाँ भारतीय लोग ही होंगे सुनने वाले भी। अभी तो फिलहाल मेरा सर कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है, बस थैंक यू सर।
ठीक है, अब पक्का याद रखेगा, हिंदी में ही बोलेगा। अब पीडी भाई आपको कुछ बोलना है?
जी सर, अभी जो श्रीनिवास साहब ने बोला ना कि ये एचयूएल के बारे में जो बोला, सर इनके जो अभी रिजल्ट्स,
वन सेकेंड समर्थ भाई, वील हैव टू रिड्यूस स्पीकर्स, नहीं तो ये क्रैश होगा। सो आई एम गोइंग टू मूव टू लिसनर। I think 6-7 is like a safe limit. Sorry, PD, I interrupted you, but you're a friend, so you can take that liberty. And you were just starting. I know you're going to give some reality.
It's okay यार। जो अभी श्रीनिवास भाई ने बोला कि एचयूएल वाले ने ऐसा बताया, अगर एचयूएल के रिजल्ट्स में वो लोग ने वॉल्यूम ऊपर दिखाया, लेकिन मुझे पता नहीं है कि कितने लोगों ने इन डेप्थ उसका एसकेयू वाइज रिजल्ट अगर आता है नहीं आता है। बात यह है कि उसका 200 वाला शैम्पू नहीं बिक रहा है, 2 रुपया वाला सैशे बिक रहा है। एंड ये मैं धंधा करता हूं इसके लिए बोल सकता हूं, और ये 2 रुपया वाला सैशे बेचने में एचयूएल को नहीं पोसाता है, नहीं परवड़ता है, उसको 200 का बॉटल बेचना है। अभी ये सर मार्केट के बारे में यहाँ पर दिग्गज लोग हैं, मैं कुछ नहीं बोलूंगा, लेकिन ये मैं जो, बिकॉज मैं हमेशा श्रीनिवास के बाद बोलने का अच्छा लगता है, बिकॉज वी आर लाइक बर्ड्स ऑफ अ फेदर काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग। तो ये जो है, अगर अगर सर, और डाबर का जो रिजल्ट आया उन्होंने अच्छा दिखाया सर, झूठ बोल रहे हैं, मैं ओपन बोलता हूँ, या डाबर वाला है तो भी मैं बोल दूंगा उसको, तू झूठ बोल रहा है। Yeah, so Srini, the volume growth that they have shown, HUL, the SKU wise, the higher SKUs have shown a degrowth. The bloody 2 rupees sachets are booming. I don't know what to make out of this.
नहीं पीडी भाई, आप बोलता है डाबर वाला को आप सिखा देगा। अरे
सिखा
कितना
देगा
लोग
सर, उसको बोलेगा वो झूठ बोला है सर।
अरे पीडी भाई आप सुनो ना, मैं क्या बोलता हूँ, आप कितने लोग को सुनाएगा? यहाँ 90% सब ऐसा ही है बैलेंस शीट बनाने वाला। क्या मतलब है? अपना कोई मतलब नहीं है। मैं बैलेंस शीट पढ़ना छोड़ दिया, रिजल्ट देखना छोड़ दिया, अखबार पढ़ना छोड़ दिया, न्यूज पढ़ना छोड़ दिया, कोई मतलब ही नहीं। एवरीथिंग इज अ फ्रॉड। अभी
सर मतलब वो लोग वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ दिखाते हैं, बोलो ना कि महंगी आइटम नहीं बिक रही है, सस्ती आइटम सर उनको बेचना नहीं परवड़ता है, 2 रुपए का सैशे उनको कॉस्टिंग में नहीं परवड़ता है सर।
और मैं लीवर के बारे में बोलता हूँ इस स्पेस पे, वो स्टॉक मैनिपुलेटेड है, मैनिपुलेटेड बाय एफआईआईज ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ यूनिलीवर। एक कैसे हो सकता है कि हिंदुस्तान लीवर इज मोर एक्सपेंसिव and valuable than Unilever because they derive value from that. And also another thing, liver is listed at so many countries. उधर ऐसा भाव नहीं है इसका, खाली इंडिया में ही है. So there is much more that is there for you to understand. A liver अभी 2018 या 19 में, I don't know, 800 का भाव था. फिर तो कोई बोल दिया.
या पीडी भाई आपको कुछ बोलना है?
नहीं नहीं, मुझे मुझे इस व्हाट टू मेक आउट ऑफ इट, इसमें से कैसे समझे कि अगर किसी कंपनी का वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ है लेकिन वो बेस ऑफ द पिरामिड में है, हायर लेवल पे नहीं, हायर MRP आइटम्स पे नहीं है. So I wanted to ask Srini this.
पीडी भाई मैं आपको बोलता हूँ आज के दिन में आई वाज जस्ट डिस्कसिंग विथ वन ऑफ द फेलो members who is there right now in our this space कि जब ये कंपनीज ईसीबी करते हैं एक्सटर्नल कमर्शियल बोरोइंग्स करते हैं ओके तो उसका आज के दिन में क्या वैल्यूएशन है वो कोई बोलता नहीं है उसका क्या प्रेशर है बैलेंस शीट के ऊपर वो कोई बोलता नहीं है क्योंकि कई कंपनीज ने ईसीबीज लिए हैं यूरो में लिए हैं डॉलर में लिए हैं दूसरे करेंसीज में लिए हैं तो आज के दिन में उसका क्या सिचुएशन है क्योंकि करेंसी मूवमेंट इतना हो चुका है लास्ट 1-1.5 साल में कि उसका तो पूरा बैलेंस शीट भी बिगड़ जाएगा अगर वो डिस्क्लोज करेंगे कि आज के दिन में क्या हो रहा है उसमें बिकॉज यूरो एंड यूएस आर इन पैरिटी राइट नाउ 1:1 का रेशियो है तब नहीं था एक बैंक है मैं नाम नहीं दे सकता उसने फॉरवर्ड किया है एनआर नॉन रेसिडेंट का जो एफडीज होता है उसको फॉरवर्ड बुक किया है ओके जेपीवाई में यूएसडी को कन्वर्ट करके जेपीवाई में फॉरवर्ड किया है अभी जेपीवाई का आप वैल्यूएशन देखो क्या हो रहा है उसका तो उसमें ये सब कोई बोल नहीं रहा है अभी बैलेंस शीट के ऊपर क्या प्रेशर आएगा वो तो फ्यूचर ही बताएगा
नहीं समझ समझ
यस सर
ये
यस
जो
सर
डिवैल्यूएशन हुआ इंडियन रूपी का 78 का या 77 का या 80 हुआ तो ज्यादातर तो जुलाई महीने में ही हुआ
यस सर
तो ये इसका इफेक्ट अभी आएगा अगले क्वार्टर में समझा अपन लगता है वो लोग तो अकाउंटिंग कुछ भी दिखा के अच्छा ही दिखाएंगे या
Sir, to PD's question, so on behalf of all FMCG walas, including the CEOs, I disown this company level volume metric. ये बकवास metric है because even they will be. You ask them over, in the not in the earnings call, but in the coffee break, saying सर ये क्या बकवास है आप 10 कैटेगरी का वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ कैसे मिला रहे हो एक आप 2 रुपए का मतलब लो वैल्यू डिटर्जेंट बेच रहे हो for 10 grams and 20 grams of rin 20 rupees for 100 grams of rin and you're selling 20 ml of some high end lux variant for 200 rupees so this volume thing actually is a fiction created by analysts because they want one line कि प्राइस ग्रोथ रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ इतना है एवरेज प्राइसिंग ग्रोथ इतना है एवरेज वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ इतना है so they will always make sure the volume growth looks good but it's not useful to analyze the company and even they will not claim that they're doing well because of that volume growth if you see what Sanjeev Mehta has said he said he's gained market share so his main claims are correct he said one Nielsen says category decline hua hai and this is the third quarter in a row. So it's a big deal, and he's pointing out. And he said, we have gained share in each category. And it's for now people to realize that big guy keeps gaining share in a declining category. Eventually, it means like the consumer base itself is falling apart. Second thing on stock price, just a quick point. In the gap between 800 and 2800, one big thing happened for HUL. They diluted 5% of equity and GSK International got 26,000 crores ka exit for selling Horlicks. Amex GSK. So it's this public data. So this stock price being so highly valued has some very high gains for some very big people. So they love it. They love the Indian system and this this game.
Srini, my point was that they cannot. It's unaffordable for them to keep doing the 2 rupee sachets. They don't make
Correct.
money over there.
PD, आप जो कह रहे हो सही है. But my only counter is Sanjeev Mehta is not painting a rosy picture. He is pretty much saying, boss, फटा हुआ है लोगों का. He's saying we need to manage inflation and interest rate and all that growth, etc. for the country. It is the analysts who are then saying, "Arey, dekho, dekho, big guys are gaining share in times of crisis." That's the only difference.
साला 2 रुपए का शैम्पू में मैं भी उसके पास से मार्जिन ज्यादा लेता हूँ 200 रुपए का शैम्पू से पता है क्या नहीं तो मेरा स्पेस का लफड़ा हो जाता है
So, I mean, these are defensive stocks, They're meant to trade at value stock levels in most markets. That's how FMCG trades. Thoda premium, because unka return on capital is good and normally they don't need more cash. But but CEO can say my company is overvalued, especially if he's an employee end of the day. So I don't blame him. But yeah, there is no maths to buy. If we ask Sanjeev Mehta's family, कितना lever shares है आपका portfolio में, I don't know what the answer will be. They'll probably have Google and some HDFC Bank or something.
अभी दुर्गेश भाई कुछ बोलेगा, बोलो दुर्गेश भाई।
सर नमस्कार, मैं विशाल भैया समझ भैया ऐसे तो जानता हूँ भैया, दोनों को नमस्कार बोल रहा हूँ एक साथ। सर मेरा एक कहना है सिर्फ ऐसा कि ये दिखावा है जो मार्केट बढ़ रहा है। मेरा ये मानना है, आप लोग शायद एग्री करें अथवा न करें, बाकी हाथी के दांत दिखाने के कुछ और खाने के कुछ और है। तो मेरे को लग रहा है कि यहाँ से मार्केट कभी भी जब भी ठुकेगा तो इतना बुरा ठुकेगा कि आदमी संभाल नहीं पाएगा। जैसे कुछ स्टॉक है, जैसे पॉली कैप है, ये दिखाने के लिए बढ़ रहा है, बाकी सितंबर में रोल ओवर इसका शॉर्ट बिल्डअप हो रहा है। इसमें सितंबर में ओवर रियल्टी है जैसे, और 2-3 स्टॉक है जो काफी बड़ी शॉर्ट बिल्डअप हो रहा है। पीवीआर में शॉर्ट बिल्डअप हो रहा है, एचडीएफसी लाइफ में हो रहा है, पॉलीकैब में हो रहा है, बंधन बैंक में हो रहा है, गुजरात गैस में हो रहा है जी, अभी बढ़ रहे हैं, लेकिन इनमें शॉर्ट बिल्डअप बहुत भयानक का हो रहा है। तो इसलिए मेरा एक मानना है कि ये मार्केट जो शॉर्ट बिल्डअप जिस हिसाब से हो रहे हैं, तो मैं आप लोगों से पूछना चाहता हूँ कि क्या मैं सही सोच रहा हूँ कि ये टॉप पे जाके ऐसे ठोकेंगे कि लोग संभल नहीं पाएंगे?
आप बराबर सोच रहे हैं।
पॉलीकैप है, जैसे पॉलीकैप में बहुत जबरदस्त ठुकने वाला है, जब भी ठुकेगा। बंधन बैंक बहुत बुरी तरह से ठुकने वाला है, ऐसा लगता है मेरे को। विशाल भैया या समर्थ भैया या आप जो भी मेरे को कोई मार्गदर्शन करें।
आज जो भी मार्गदर्शन करे या जो भी बात बोले, अभी
हाँ
ठोकना मत। ओके,
हाँ
शांति से बैठे रहो
जी
पोली कैप 2000 के नीचे बेचो।
जी सर, बिल्कुल एग्री सर।
ओके, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू।
ट्रेडिंग डी,
या विशाल भाई आप बोलिए ना। हाँ, ट्रेडिंग डी अभी
नहीं, विशाल भाई को लास्ट में लेते हैं।
ओके ओके ओके,
ट्रेडिंग डी।
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone.
राजेश भाई, आई विल टेक यू नेक्स्ट। हाँ बोलो।
Good evening, everyone. Sir, I
एक
just want
मिनट
to...
ट्रेडिंग डी, एक मिनट आपको, मेरे को है ना अभी बॉन्ड मार्केट का आपको बोलना है। बॉन्ड मार्केट के ऊपर बोलिए क्या चल रहा है वहां पर।
सर बॉन्ड मार्केट, एक सेकंड सर, मुझे सर या तो मुझे थोड़ी देर बाद लीजिए, मुझे चार्ट खोलने दीजिए बॉन्ड अपना।
नहीं, अपने इंडिया का स्टॉक मार्केट का बोलो ना बस।
सर इंडिया का बॉन्ड मार्केट ही बोल रहे हैं सर, इज बॉन्ड स्पेशलिस्ट।
अरे अच्छा
सर पहले मेरे पास अभी निफ्टी रेडी है, उसके बाद मैं बॉन्ड पे आ जाऊंगा, क्योंकि मुझे अभी वो चार्ट देखना पड़ेगा। So sir, just going with 2-3 lines, sir. As I am posting also, it's a corrective rally, which is not an impulsive one. तो अपना जो लास्ट का हाई है, रिसेंट पिवट 793 है शायद, 16,793, उसके ऊपर एक टिक भी गया तो है तो तब भी बेरिश, बट फिर जो नया लो आने के चांसेस हैं वो थोड़े से कम होंगे। एल्स हम नए लो की तरफ जा रहे हैं। ये कभी भी उसके पहले जहाँ कभी भी 50-100 पॉइंट और ऊपर कहीं से भी ये मतलब बहुत ही फास्ट एंड फ्यूरियस वे में जाएगा। तो ये है मेरा अभी निफ्टी पे। तो अभी कुछ मतलब नया हाई आ जाएगा या नहीं आएगा तो वो उसकी बात नहीं है, बट ये अभी एक नीचे वाली लेग शार्प वाली आनी बाकी है। ये है केस 1। तो जैसे केस 2 है कि अगर ये 17,000 ऊपर क्रॉस करता है जैसे, और तो फिर सर ये कंजेशन जोन में जाने वाला है, मे बी 15,000, 14,800 या फिर अपना 17,000 के अराउंड 2.5-3 महीने के लिए। तो ये अभी वीकली व्यू है, उस पर नहीं जाते। तो अभी रिसेंट वन यही है कि with a stop loss for 794, 16,000, I have a bearish view for 1,000 to 1,500 points down from here. Thank you, sir.
थैंक यू। अभी चेतन सिंह, नहीं राजेश भाई।
हाय सर, राजेश हियर।
आप हाथ नीचा करो ना भाई।
हाँ ओके सर, श्योर। Sir, I have been listening to auto ancillary segments, which will perform like APIs in 2020. Uh, in coming years, maybe into 2023 or end of in 2024, like that. So I have not found any good reason uh, for them to move up. Is there anything you can share about auto ancillaries or auto, sir? Both, I mean, auto ancillaries mostly.
मालूम नहीं है क्यों बढ़ता है। इन सबका दो तीन का बी होना चाहिए बस।
Okay.
हम्म।
Okay.
फोर मोटर का 4 का पी है। ओके।
Okay.
तो अपना एंसिलियरी का कितना पी है मालूम नहीं मेरे को। मैं देखता नहीं हूँ वो, और पसंद ही नहीं है मेरे
Okay. Is there anything to do with EV, electric vehicle, the shift from ICE to?
को। आइडिया नहीं है।
Okay, sir. Yeah, that's fine. Sir, I would like to share one more thing. Actually, लास्ट ईयर सितंबर में पूरा पोर्टफोलियो बेच दिया था मैंने. इट वाज अराउंड 30-35 lakhs पोर्टफोलियो, एंड आई वाज सो आपकी स्पेसेस में सुन सुन के I have even stopped even thinking about buying them, buying again in markets. But it helped me a lot, sir. The exit which I have taken almost 11 months back. Uh, so so thanks for your spaces as well, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
आप क्या करते हो राजेश भाई?
क्या सर? मैं IBM में काम करता हूँ सर. आई वर्क एज ए सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर.
IBM तो मार्ट बुकल कंपनी है, वो बढ़ता ही नहीं है कभी।
Yes sir, actually our company got demerged from IBM. Now it is called Kindle Solutions. उसका भाव था $45 6 months back. वो $10 के ऊपर है. $10 से नीचे है सर. वो
तो
बिजनेस ही नहीं
इंफॉर्मेशन
है.
है तेरे पास?
What sir? No sir, I don't have any shares in that.
गुड, लेना भी मत।
Sure sir, sure, definitely.
विशाल भाई बोलो।
सर गुड इवनिंग। सबसे पहले तो सर बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद एंड थैंक यू एंड टू यू कि आपने सर ये स्पेसेस कंटिन्यू रखने का वो यू टुक द डिसीजन, तो दैट इज फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट, क्योंकि आपका सर स्पेसेस इट हेल्प्स अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल टेक डिसीजंस, इन्फॉर्म्ड डिसीजंस इन द मार्केट, एंड ऑब्वियसली एवरीथिंग इज फॉर एजुकेशनल पर्पसेस, बट स्टिल सर काफी लोगों को पैसा बचा भी है फॉल के अंदर, एंड यू हैव बीन कंटिन्यूसली एडवाइजिंग द राइट थिंग्स। आप दिल से बोलते हो तो सर कईयों को अच्छा लगता है, कईयों को नहीं लगता है, बट ऑल सेड एंड डन सर प्लीज ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ ऑल द लिसनर्स आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट यू टू कंटिन्यू दीज स्पेसेस ऑन अ
यस
रेगुलर बेसिस।
यस।
सर सेकेंड थिंग सर मेरा ये कहना है कि सर बाजार में जो चीज सबको दिखती है वो ऑब्वियसली नहीं होती है, तो पिछले सर 2 हफ्ते से शॉर्ट साइड में इट वाज इजी मनी विच वाज कि बेचो नीचे में मिल जाएगा, गैप अप खुला ठोक दो बाजार नीचे घुसेगा ही घुसेगा, तो एवरी एवरी टॉम डिक एंड हैरी वाज शॉर्टिंग द मार्केट। और सर आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा, ये बाजार बहुत मुश्किल है बाजार में पैसा कमाना, तो लॉट ऑफ पीपल हैव बीन कॉट अनअवेयर ऑन द अपसाइड। और सर कोई चेयर नहीं है, बाजार ऊपर आ रहा है, देयर इज नो चेयर इन द मार्केट, एंड अभी करंटली सर बहुत सारी जगह पे ऐसा लग रहा है कि लोगों को फियर ऑफ मिसिंग आउट होने लग गया है कि यार ये स्टॉक बचेगा, ये भाग रहा है, ये ले लूं कि वो ले लूं, एंड लॉट ऑफ स्टॉक्स टेक्निकली आर शोइंग अप ट्रेंड दिखा रहे हैं, ब्रेकआउट्स भी दिख रहे हैं काफी स्टॉक्स में, एंड आई एग्री विद डीजे भाई कारा, डीजे कारा से मैं एग्री करता हूँ कि 5-7% अप मूव इन द मार्केट्स डोंट चेंज द फंडामेंटल्स ऑफ द ब्रॉडर मार्केट, तो द फंडामेंटल्स रिमेन द सेम, ब्रॉडर फंडामेंटल्स आर वीक, कोई चेंज नहीं है, एंड मार्केट्स कैन रिमेन इन डिस्टॉर्शन, ओवर वैल्यूड और अंडर वैल्यूड फॉर अ लॉन्गर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम। तो सर यहाँ से आई एग्री विद डीजे, हो सकता है कि वी में सी इंडेक्स के ऊपर 17,000 17,200 के लेवल्स भी आ सकते हैं, बट फंडामेंटल्स आर स्टिल द सेम, so people have to be very cautious going overboard on the लॉन्ग साइड एंड गेटिंग लेवरेज अगर लेके काम कर रहे हैं तो गॉड ब्लेस देम इज ऑल आई कैन से. Coming to what Srini was also talking some time back, especially on FMCG, सर अभी और स्पेशली सर क्योंकि मैं एग्री से जुड़ा हुआ हूँ तो मैं एग्री रिलेटेड सर कुछ बात करना चाहूँगा कि वी हैव न्यू खरीफ सीजन जिसका खरीफ क्रॉप आनी शुरू होगी अभी अगस्त एंड सितंबर से चालू हो जाएगी. द प्राइसेस ऑफ द रॉ मटेरियल्स आर प्रीटी हाई, द इनपुट कॉस्ट हैव गॉन अप लाइक एनीथिंग. तो I don't think inflation यहाँ से cool down होगा, especially the food inflation because the raw material cost and everything and the demand supply को अगर हम देखेंगे तो global demand supply भी देखेंगे तो सर इंडियन मार्केट्स के अंदर खाने पीने के पदार्थों के अंदर मुझे ये लगता है कि तेजी बनी रहेगी और महंगाई बनी रहेगी. तो obviously there would be a big hole which would be there in the pockets of the common man. I mean, you look at why are rice stocks rallying? Rice stocks are simply rallying because globally demand आ रही है. जो सर एक simple example है, the lowest grade of basmati uh, which used to be sold at 2500 rupees quintal is being sold at 4000 rupees a quintal this time around. और लास्ट सीजन में सर हाईएस्ट ग्रेड ऑफ बासमती चावल 4000 पे नहीं बिकता था. तो आप समझ सकते हो कि कितना बड़ा महंगाई का देयर इज अ ह्यूज डिफरेंस in terms of the price. So which is going to hit the pocket of the common man, and this is across all the food commodities. So fundamentals are still the same. बाकी सर एक चीज है कि वी हैव बिग अर्निंग सीजन गोइंग फॉरवर्ड. आई वुड से जो अच्छा परफॉर्म करेंगे मार्केट्स में रिवॉर्ड देम बिकॉज देयर आर लॉट ऑफ स्टॉक्स व्हिच आर बीटन डाउन और जो खराब होंगे तो मार्केट्स आर गोना पनिश दो स्टॉक्स बिग टाइम. So on the whole sir currently I would say कि one needs to be, we are cautiously long on the markets looking at the momentum on the upside. बट सर फंडामेंटल्स रिमेन द सेम एंड आपकी बात बिल्कुल सही है. किसी भी दिन वो कहते हैं ना बकरे को मारने से पहले हलाल करने से पहले खिलाया जाता है, तो वो वाली चीज हो रही है अभी मार्केट से. दैट्स इट सर.
Okay. Now, fact finder. चला गया.
सर वो आई थिंक इश्यू कुछ हुआ होगा कनेक्टिंग.
अच्छा. और एक बात बोलना है, तेजी लगे वो कुछ भी मत ले लेना. जिसका रिजल्ट अच्छा है वो ही लेना. जो खराब रिजल्ट आया है वो मत लेना. भाव ऊपर जाता है वो समझना मत कि शेयर अच्छा है. ओके.
या
नाउ
चेतन सी सर एक स्पीकर है, अगर आप यू कैन कंटिन्यू सर.
नहीं, चेतन सिंह को बोलने तो क्या हो.
धन्यवाद सर. सर सम्राट भाई, थैंक यू.
आवाज नहीं आ
अभी
रहा.
मैं अभी आ रहा है.
आ रहा है. अगर आप वो ये हैंड्स फ्री यूज कर रहे हो ना भाई तो वो निकाल दो तो अच्छा आएगा आवाज.
अब
हेलो. और बोलिए ना चेतन सिंह.
जी धन्यवाद सर. तो अभी मैं आपकी बात सुन रहा था सर कि जैसे आपने कहा कि फंडामेंटल कुछ नहीं चल रहा है और मार्केट में वैल्यूएशंस वगैरह हाई है और काफी सारी मतलब आपने बोला कि अखबार पढ़ना छोड़ दिया, बैलेंस शीट पढ़ना छोड़ दिया. तो बढ़ने का सिर्फ एक रीजन है और घटने के 3 कारण है. उस पे मैं थोड़ा सा बात करना चाहता हूँ. बढ़ने
में एक तो इन्फ्लेशन है, एक इंटरेस्ट रेट है और तीसरा क्या है बोलिए.
जी जी इनके अलावा जो कारण है उस पे मैं थोड़ा सा आपका ध्यान केंद्रित करना चाहता हूँ. तो पहला बढ़ने का सिर्फ एक कारण है, वो है कि जो अभी कुछ विप्लवपूर्ण वातावरण संसार में होना बाकी है तो उसके वो जब समय होता है तो लॉटरी, जुआ, सट्टा और बाकी ये सारी जो प्रोडिक्शंस वाली गेम्स होती है, जो भी होता है ये सब, वो सब बढ़ती है। मेरा अंडरस्टैंडिंग जो जहां तक है उसके अकॉर्डिंग मैं बता रहा हूँ कि मार्केट का बढ़ने का कारण सिर्फ एक यही है, जो कि 2024 तक साइकिल चलेगा। कुछ एक 3 महीने पहले, 2 महीने पहले भी एक स्पेस होता था आपका विपिन भाई के साथ में, और जब समर्थ भाई भी सुनते आते थे, तब उस वक्त भी मैंने कुछ ऐसा ही बात बताया था कि ये जो मार्केट है उसके घटने के तो 3-4 कारण होने चाहिए, जो फंडामेंटल है, इन्फ्लेशन है, बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, लेकिन बढ़ने का सिर्फ एक कारण है कि जो ये वातावरण चलता है, जो साइकिल चल रहा है संसार में, उस साइकिल के अंदर ये जो गैम्बलिंग, लॉटरी, जुआ सब
चले गए। Keen investor.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Very well.
So, first of all, thanks for continuing these spaces.
Yeah, it's
Personally,
okay. Come on.
just want to tell you a few things. Personally, I feel you have a very balanced approach. You are going behind stocks which are more expensive and the weaker ones, and you never spoke about good, strong companies to short or something. I think
No.
it's very relevant to continue. In fact, you should be, people should contribute in terms of, giving this kind of a lectures in terms of markets. So coming back to the markets, sir, I've been a SEBI investment advisor, and disclaimer is whatever I say here, it's nothing. You should be consulting your own advisor to buy or sell. So we, as a retail investor, everybody should look at a wealth management as a total asset class. Now, equity currently, if you look at 2018 September, 10-year GSEC was 8.4, and July 2020, 10-year GSEC return has been around, I think, 14 to 15%. If somebody who bought a gilt fund, unfortunately, retail investors are only focused on equity, and the same period, the equity has given 12%. So we are at a 7.5% 10-year GSEC at this point in time, and 4 price to book at this point in time. Consolidated P is around 21. My valuation model doesn't allow me to invest more than 20 to 25%. That too, I spread it over a period of 26 weeks. So, in reality, if you look at, people are discussing Hindustan Unilever, all these big companies, they hardly give index return. For me, it doesn't matter. And I am never a fan of big, large companies. And, it doesn't make sense for a retail investor to go in this kind of companies if you want to really create wealth. These are one point. So if you look at all, if go by a sector valuations, if the models, today the biggest hit is IT sector, and there are so many jobs are getting, being kind of terminated in US. The effect will come. If I remember clearly, in 2008, uh, the consulting arms of IT companies, which is a fee-based consulting, they were asked to take a 20 to 25% cut at those point in time. And today, I had a meeting with a couple of them in Bangalore, and they are fearing the same thing here. And they are all very clearly seeing that there is slowdown is evident, but you don't know when, whether next quarter. So these things will start factoring in coming days. So the rest of the other things, the data point is, the Nifty, what happens. I don't think so. If you really want to buy with a piece, if you want to create wealth, if you're a long-term investor, I really don't see more than 3 years as a investing journey. I really take, like DJ Kara clearly said, he waited for a year to enter the market. No, that should be the attitude of the people. The equity is not a. I remember one of the spaces you mentioning that equity may, you don't necessarily have to invest. It's not a necessity. It is just an asset class where you find an opportunity, and when you find an opportunity, you invest. Not every time people have to jump every day, irrespective of the price, buying, thinking, then go for a quote, Warren Buffett quotes, and holding for a long period of time. I have not seen anybody creating wealth. Fund managers have not created wealth, sir. None of the mutual funds have beaten the index consistently. Some of the fund managers keep changing it. So all in all, I would like to conclude that equity market is damn expensive. It may go up to 20,000, I don't care. I may miss the rally, I don't care. My thing is, I want to create wealth at my own, pace, when it is very clearly visible. All the macro things are very clean. And I think you've been educating people a lot. If people don't listen to you, I don't know whom else they will listen. So that's all I would like to conclude.
No, people think I am bearish, but I don't touch good stocks. I have never said ICICI Bank बेचो, HDFC Bank, या Tata Steel. वो सब छोड़ दो. I sell only where the balance sheet is broken or the company is a fraud. These are the two factors which I follow regularly. Otherwise, what is the point of shorting? वो 2-3% के लिए कौन short करेगा?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. There's not even a single book which is written in India which talks about shorting in Indian markets. And it's a clear art to understand a balance sheet and going behind a weakening company. And what you've been telling is, you've been asking, you've been suggesting, or you just, ITC, or, you always, I remember telling that, don't go behind big companies, क्यों बेचना है उनको, जो नीचे जा रहा है उसको बेचना है, balance sheet. People should understand balance sheet. इतना, there are so much of data available today. If people cannot understand the sales and inventory, these are the very basic thing which you've been telling people. You are giving hints with so many things. I think people should take it from there. But of course, the troll and everything, I think you should just ignore, because I don't go into other places where whenever I go there, they talk about with such an authority that they know things. I completely agree. Market, nobody can kind of say that okay, this is going to happen. But I am okay as an investor. I don't care if market goes up 30% from here. I know that I'm buying a long term bonds at this point in time, which I'm sure I will make 10 to 12% over a period of 3 to 4 years. At least वो guarantee है मेरे लिए 10 to 12%, which is an average return for an Indian market over a period of time. So then wait for an opportunity when market crashes to kind of put lot of money into good companies instead of every day get in get out, something which I don't do. Very few, I think, traders who are very good, like uh, DJ or Samat Bhai, we keep in Abhishek, they have a very system which they know that this is going to work. But otherwise, a long term is people should follow you blindly.
No, nothing of that sort. But I'm, at this index, where is the sense in investing? Yes, you want to trade, it's okay. But your wealth, you cannot put it over here. Few weeks ago, I had said, get out of technology when TCS was up or something. A lot of people abuse me. I don't know what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
खुला दिखता है दिस टेक्नोलॉजी कंपनीज यहाँ से आधा हो जाएगा because they can't sustain this speed.
Sir,
They
my
cannot.
question is forget peace, sir. I think there is a threat to the margin itself, because today the US is in such a fragile state. If that currency crashes, if you look at the Japanese yen has been crashed such a way, let's assume that we reflect the same thing happening into US. If Indian rupee appreciates to 65 rupees, margin कहाँ रहेगा sir? 25% margin नहीं रहेगा. It will come down to probably 14-15%. And that's where the threat I feel for the next 5 to 6 years, even little more. Until unless US is strong, we are today, our economy is completely US based economy. Our real estate is, people are buying real estate because of US, dollars से कमा रहे हैं, यहाँ पे पैसे डाल रहे हैं real estate में. Indians are not, the ones who are locally earning are not able to afford a real estate in India. But that is because of dollar, and also because the oil prices is up. That the entire Middle East people who are actually pouring in money. Dirham is 22 rupees. When I was in that area, when I used to work there, it was 14-15 rupees. The dollar is pegged to dirham. So obviously the money is pouring into India because it's so cheap. But I feel that technology companies, the margin itself may be in threat, next few years.
No,
I may be
a
wrong, but
keen investor, a keen investor.
yes, sir.
Wipro came out with the results.
Yeah,
15% margin.
yeah,
Okay. And they said foreign hedging costs. I mean, you are giving an explanation, but loss is a loss,
absolutely. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So people talk about the management commentary. बहुत अच्छा था. अरे वो तो tell me which management will say कि मेरा result खराब. So
Yeah.
no point in teaching people what not to do. Live
No
sub
promoter
share.
will have a view for more than 6 months, sir. That they will have the project. They know there is a confirmed money contracts coming in. But I've not heard any big deal being acquired in last few months from any of the big majors. They're all in millions of dollars. I don't think so. In billions, I don't know. I've not followed any company which is telling that we got signed multiple $1 billion deals in last few months. That will reflect in the balance sheet in the coming quarters. So, any which was my whole observation in to just to conclude, I don't care if equity market doubles from here, but I am not at all comfortable to trade because once I enter a trade, tomorrow 20% nikal gaya, then I become a long term investor with that stock for a very long period. It's my experience to just to stay away as much as possible. Now I'm anyways deploying 20-25% and I'm spreading it over a period of few months, and that too pure value where there may be a growth coming in later stage. Now the growth is dead. So I would like to really thank you for the space that you conduct. I would wish you continue always.
Now, you last thing, should I invest in 10-year paper now?
So if
Or
you spread it over a period of next few weeks, I think 10 to 12, 13-year paper, I think makes sense. But you should spread it. You should not, because if you look at the chart also today, we had some buying happening in the 10-year to 12-year. So I'm spreading the money for the next few weeks, probably till end of September. I would like to buy those for a pretty long period, 3 to 4 years. I think one should look at that. But if you look at RBI retail, you may not find liquidity. But of course, it's safer. But if you're participating through a guild fund, that I typically go through a guild fund and participate.
so it is advisable to be in guild fund.
You have to spread it out. My theory
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
yeah, my theory is it should not go beyond 8 to 8.2%, because if US raises the interest rates, commodity prices should crash. Hopefully this time. Last time it didn't happen. So India would be a beneficiary if you look at the a lot of margins are coming down on the oil thing. So I assume that 10-year G sub should not cross above 8%. So if that happens, if I spread my money for the next 8 weeks, and I'm at least like a 7% 10-year, 12-year paper, I think it's trading at a 7.7% yield. So something like that.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Fact finder, I will take on the questions and you answer them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I joined it quite late. But yeah, you can go ahead. I mean, go ahead, Sharad.
So, questions, please. Anybody has any question for fact finder or for me or for any of the speakers? No one?
No, there are only Sharad, I think you have very few. I mean, and there are only three speakers actually, so you need to add speakers so that people can ask questions.
Hey, everybody has spoken, so if anyone has any questions, they can raise a request so I can accept them. Because then the spaces get scratched. That's why I have made minimal speakers on the board right now.
Samarth, any
Yeah.
specific? I mean, if you could just spend a couple of minutes what are the general thoughts that people have in general, or questions people have? Sorry, I just joined.
नहीं, the general trend is कि we are right now in a typically bull market, and the market is bottomed out. That is what the FinTweets are right now saying. Plus the result which are coming up like Havels and Polycab and all this stuff, they are getting on the upside. The prices are going up, but the results are bad. And Wipro also, the margins have beaten down, but still the prices is going up. HUL same thing. So there's a big question mark about the result comparison, because I think that they are doing it YOY, but Q on Q is also a better way, or you can compare it with 2019 results. So that's the best way to compare as of now.
No, and last year was a COVID year.
But that's why I'm saying ना सर कि 2019 का अगर हम कंपेयर करेंगे तो थोड़ा रियलिस्टिक हमको पता चलेगा what is the standpoint.
If you have to compare it with 2019, you need to also adjust for inflation, right? Because at the end of the day, it's normal. The question is that if your volumes barely grow, but your price appreciation is at, over a period of 3 years, is probably 20-25%. Then if these guys are not giving that 3 year growth of 25% versus FY19, then it's actually bad because, so that's a question mark everybody should ask.
Okay. Now we have Surgiv. Sugraha.
Sugriv Meena.
हाँ, गुड इवनिंग शरद साहब।
हाँ
मेरा
बोलिए।
एक कुछ आपसे पूछना था। वैसे तो आप कंफ्यूज रहते हैं, तो हो सकता है आपका जवाब भी ज्यादा सही हो, लेकिन फिर भी ये मार्केट क्यों
नहीं
ऊपर
नहीं,
जा रहा
एक
है
मिनट एक
जबकि
मिनट एक मिनट एक मिनट एक कंफ्यूज आप बोले, ऐसे ही डाल के रखा है भैया। मजाक में था। आप बोलो, चलो।
मैं भी मजाक ही कर रहा हूँ साहब आपसे, ऐसा नहीं है।
नहीं करना चाहिए ना। आपका
हाँ,
उम्र कितना है?
आपसे ज्यादा होगा।
नहीं, कितना फिर भी बताओ ना सर।
55।
आई एम 65।
सॉरी देन।
ओके, चलिए बोलिए सर।
मैं जानना चाह रहा था कि मार्केट क्यों ऊपर जा रहा है। क्या कारण है? क्या काफी फंडामेंटल्स जैसे इन्फ्लेशन भी बढ़ रहा है, एफआईआई विड्रॉ कर रही हैं, और तो क्या कारण है कि इतना ऊपर जा रहा है ये, और ये कब तक ऊपर जाएगा?
ये 28 जुलाई तक ऊपर जाएगा, क्योंकि 3-4 करोड़ कॉल्स है। ओके, आप जानते हो कॉल्स को?
जानता तो हूँ साहब, एमबीए किया, कुछ कुछ पढ़ा है।
सर ही इज एन
बोलो।
IRS है सर।
अरे सर बोलो ना, आप मालूम है कि नहीं? अभी ऐसा मैंने
मालूम
पूछा
है
कि
साहब, मालूम है।
हाँ हाँ,
क्लोजर है
तो
उनका, उसी के
ओके,
कारण जा रहा है, बस और कोई कारण नहीं है।
हाँ हाँ, बस वही है। तो 14,000 से लेके 17,000 तक 3-4 करोड़ है। तो वो लोग वो जो लिखा है कॉल, उनके अगेंस्ट
ओके,
में खेल रहे हैं। इसके लिए रोज निफ्टी बढ़ता है।
ऑप्शन से एक्सरसाइज का टाइम चल रहा है। थैंक यू।
अरे आप नाराज मत हो ना भाई, माफ करना यार।
अरे साहब, आपसे क्यों नाराज होंगे? आप तो ज्ञान दे रहे हो, वो भी फ्री में।
ये ज्ञान में क्या है, मजा आता है, अच्छा लगता है।
Raji, can I add something over there?
या
So, to your question, Givji, the thing is, it's not just India that is moving up, it's also the US. Uh, I mean, if you track something called the high yield bonds, those yields have been coming off quite sharply, and that is usually that is a decent indicator of risk off, risk on. This seems to me, at least, that this is more of a bear market rally. Some pockets of investors are taking uh, you know uh, uh, joy in the fact that uh, uh, you know uh, that the spread between the 2 year and the 10 year in the US is gone down substantially to a negative level, and is an indication that the US Fed will actually eventually cut rates. And that's the sense, plus the combination of that, uh, as well as the high yield bonds coming off significantly. It seems to be adding to that. One more thing I had tweeted today was the fact that uh, the call options amongst retail investors, the put options amongst retail investors, is quite significantly high. It's back to what it was in 2008. And now, it's honestly, if you ask me, I think it's unfair to look at an absolute level, because the market has obviously dramatically changed between 2008 and today, with global access to anybody to trade. But that is giving the sense that the market seems to be oversold. Because if you look at the data, I don't know how many of you, whether you guys talked about it. AT&T, the telecom company, came out and said that people are cutting their mobile bills. Imagine that people are cutting mobile bills. I mean, that is really quite negative if you ask me. And the stock was down 11%. The other thing is, while I also wanted to share. So these, to my mind, are essentially this huge amount of put options by retail guys suggesting that they're superbly bearish. Plus, the credit yields falling substantially, and the 2 year, 10 year. To my mind, that's driving this rally in international markets and causing FI numbers to be positive. I wouldn't read too much into it, because the data that is coming out from a fundamental point of view is worsening for sure, not just in India, but in Europe, in US, everywhere pretty much. China is also, honestly, to me, surprisingly slightly on the negative. Typically, if you have a earnings downgrade cycle, I don't think in the medium term, when I talk about medium term, I'm talking about the next 12 months at least, that markets can go up. You will eventually lose money, because multiples derate. And we all know that the US Fed and the ECB will continue to raise rates. In fact, there's another interesting data point. While I know number of jobless claims have gone up, and the bullish guys will tell you that, but what they won't tell you is that the continuing jobless claims have moved up very marginally, not very much. And there is still a lot of job openings still available, which means that the US labor market is very, very tight even now. And the Fed is very clear that they want that their target is inflation. And if the job market remains tight, inflation will remain sticky, and they will hike up rates. I just wanted to share that. So this is a bear market rally. It could be a sharp bear market rally, but in my view, it's a bear market rally.
If you people allow me, I can ask my one more question to Sarad Saab. I just wanted to know that in USA there used to be lot of market for the shale gas. What happened to that? Why it is not reviving when the crude has crossed 100 plus?
It gas. Wait, pardon.
No, sorry. Could you repeat your question again, Sungiv?
If you remember, there used to be that oil consumption went down in 2016 or somewhat near, when the crude went down below $50 per barrel, and
You're talking about
then
2020.
uh, uh, I just want to reframe it, since that crude is above $100 per barrel, so there naturally the substitute should come in place. So why aren't they coming up? Particularly shale gas, there used to be a lot of market, and it's viable if the crude is above 50.
So let me just answer this. the US has a problem, has always had a problem with gas because of not because they don't have a gas, they have a lot of gas, and based on the current plan, they potentially in the next 3-4 years become the world's largest gas supplier. Potentially, maybe in the next 4-5 years at least. And the thing is, they always had a problem with gas, which is why the Henry Hub gas prices were significantly lower than the prices in Asia for LNG. The reason was that they lacked pipelines to transmit this gas internally, and as a result, this gas had to be consumed at a very low price. Now, the US has started exporting gas, but that still needs to go up a little more. As far as crude oil is concerned, the thing is that if you look at the data on crude oil production in US, it is still probably 1.5 million barrels lower than what it was pre-COVID, and that's because ESG has taken over, had an impact on the way the capex that global oil and gas company is doing. Just for perspective, today the total capex by oil and gas companies to explore, I mean, total capex including maintenance and fresh exploration is below the depreciation cost. It's never happened before. And just for perspective, I think today, in absolute dollar terms, we are 20% higher than 17% higher than what it was last calendar year. But the price of services, oil services, has inflated by over 20 to 25%. So, in actual quantum terms, they are still spending lower than what they were spending in 2021. And 2020 and 2021 was pretty much flat in value terms and was at least 40 to 50% lower than 2019. And the peak of capex actually happened in 2013 and 2014 in terms of oil and gas capex. If you're not putting up capex, you will not have new finds, and hence your production starts falling with a lag, which is what has happened in the US. As far as I mean, the thing is that we've what is scaring me actually is this weather conditions that are happening across the world. I mean, you're having fires in Europe, you're having fires in the UK, you're having excessive heat in the US, where now they are worried that the railway lines will get broken, okay, because of the kind of weather conditions. So I don't know. It's a little scary if you ask me, because the demand for cooling and hence use of energy will actually go up because of this. Having said that, I just want to add one thing. The US demand for crude oil has, in the last 5 weeks, has been surprising negatively, and the reason, and typically this is has been the general very strong driving season. And because it's surprising negatively, it's likely because of the very high in gasoline prices, which is a factor of not only the crude oil price, but more importantly, the refining price, GRMs, which have been very, very high. It's been refining GRMs were almost at one point in time 5 times the average GRM, almost $40 to $50 per barrel. So I think that has had an impact on crude oil, gasoline consumption, and hence crude oil consumption in the US has started. Has actually is below the normal consumption that happens in the last 5-6 weeks. To my mind, that will put some sort of cap on crude oil prices for this year.
No, his question was on shale gas, that why it is being stopped.
But Sharadji, just to add here, shale gas was always a scam and never recoverable. It's been talked about right from 2010-11. It was already printed by quite a few leading newspapers in US that it was already a scam. It was a big Ponzi scheme. So that is why in this crude rally, nobody's talking about shale, because it was all a Ponzi scheme. To recover that kind of gas and all that apparatus, I think it's kind of impossible. And if possible, then it's totally economically not viable. That is why there's no shale.
It was just one big Ponzi scheme.
Okay. और बोलिए.
Just one thing I wanted to add, which I read today, was that Saudi has now almost explicitly said that their oil production will peak at 13 million barrels a day, and this peak will happen in the next 3 to 4 years. I don't think the market expected them to announce such a peak so quickly. There were always some people who said, there is a peak issue with Saudi. Some people, many, but the Saudis never, admitted it, and the general governments would say no, they have a lot more capacity. But now they explicitly have given out a number. I think, to my mind, if they peak at 13 million barrels, I think in 3 to 4 years from now, if as the world recovers and growth is better, I think we'll have a big problem in crude oil. Crude oil is going to go up from here for sure.
See, last time, I'll add to this on the sentiment side. We hear everything good about crude at the top. So now you've already had 300, 350 targets by quite a few broking houses, 200 for the end of the year. So all that. So I think OPEC you have to take with a pinch of salt because they are insiders. They will never say anything wrong about crude. Why will they? So they will always make the right noises at the wrong time. So I think this rally is overhyped. Yes, it can go up in future, but yes, right now I think more or less the best with for this year probably could be capped unless until something seriously breaks out of Russia again. I think the worst for crude markets, or the best for crude markets, sorry to say. I think for the year mostly it is done. And yes, next year what happens we'll see. But yeah, broadly right now it looks like to be in a 92 to 110, 112 range on the WTI. So unless until you decisively break out of this range, either lower or higher, I think newer targets might not come for this year. So you could just stick up into this range till you don't break out decisively over 112.
I have a view.
जी शरद जी बोलिए.
Crude will go down a lot.
सर बिलो 92 आपके साथ ही हूँ. आई एम विद यू. बिलो 92 आई एम विद यू.
अरे मेरे साथ किधर यार, मेरे को क्या लेना देना.
नहीं आप बोले ना जाएगा नीचे, तो मैंने कहा बिलो 92 एनीथिंग इज पॉसिबल.
नहीं वो ठीक है आप जो बोलते हो, क्योंकि ये बढ़ने वाला नहीं है.
बिल्कुल नहीं है.
इसका जो मूवमेंट है वो बहुत ही गंदा है. मैं देखो वापस बोलता हूँ, मैं चार्ट देखता नहीं हूँ, चार्ट में मानता नहीं. मेरे को लगता है 70-80 हो जाएगा.
सर मानते नहीं है लेवल्स, लेकिन लेवल्स आपके अच्छे ही आते हैं. तो मानते नहीं है फिर भी चार्ट्स को, लेकिन लेवल्स तो आपके अच्छे आते हैं. हम तो चार्ट वाले ही हैं, 20 साल से खाली चार्टिंग ही कर रहे हैं और कुछ किया नहीं लाइफ में.
और नवंबर तक आएगा और बाद में तेजी होएगा.
पॉसिबल है.
अरे मैं कौन सा तीर मारता हूँ. आप ऑयल का चार्ट निकालो, ओके, हर साल का निकालो, except this COVID time and all that. Crude oil नवंबर में रुकना बंद हो जाता है, दिसंबर से बढ़ना चालू होता है, वो मार्च तक बढ़ता है. This pattern you will see every year.
आई एग्री. उस पैटर्न में एक चीज और ऐड कर दूं कि जब जो सबसे बड़े फॉल आए सारे अगस्त में स्टार्ट हुए हैं. अगस्त का चार्ट देख लीजिए, अगस्त सितंबर से गिरना शुरू होता है, नवंबर तक गिरता है. तो सबसे बड़े फॉल क्रूड के अगस्त में ही स्टार्ट होते हैं, चाहे 2008 हो, चाहे उसके बाद 14 में हो. और अगर अभी यहाँ से गिरना शुरू हुआ अगस्त के बाद से, तो अगस्त के बाद तो देखते हैं. लास्ट 4-5 दिन रह गए इस महीने के ट्रेडिंग के. अगस्त में अगर धुलाई शुरू हुई क्रूड की और 92 तोड़ा, तो फिर धुलाई है और नवंबर तक चलेगी, जैसे आपने बोला राइटली, नवंबर तक चलेगी. फिर
भाई मैं तो सीधा साधा बात बोला कि घटेगा. अभी तो मैं क्रूड में खेलता भी नहीं हूँ. पहले बहुत खेलता था, 3-4 लाख बैरल खेलता था. अभी नहीं खेलता हूँ, एक बैरल भी नहीं. तो पहले सब करता था तो याद है मेरे, कभी मारने का $1 का मूव मैं करवाता था, उतना ट्रेडिंग करता था. अभी सब बात रात को ही होता है ये ज्यादा. पॉसिबल नहीं है अभी करना। और बताओ।
ऑल गुड सर, ऑल गुड।
ऑल गुड।
बाकी अब आप देखिए, मार्केट आज क्रिटिकल लेवल्स पे आ गया था निफ्टी, अब देखते हैं कल क्या होता है, देखते हैं। और 28 नेक्स्ट 3-4 दिन मोमेंटम चला तो चलेगा आई थिंक।
होगा कि नहीं आई डोंट नो। 3-4 लाख, अरे 3-4 करोड़ कॉल्स है। 14,000 से लेके 17,000 तक
पोजीशन तो पुट साइड में भी है, पुट्स में भी पोजीशन है, कॉल में भी पोजीशन है आई थिंक। अभी तो फिलहाल अभी एक्सपायरी में अब शुरुआत होगी
नहीं, बट अभी समझो ना 16,200 का पुट का वैल्यू ही नहीं रहा ना अभी।
हाँ 16 अभी तो ओआई 16,500 पुट साइड में। तो अगर नेक्स्ट वीक वाला देख रहे हैं तो 16,500 पे ओआई है। 40-45 लाख तो वहां खड़ा है।
उसका भी वैल्यू नहीं है ना, कॉल का वैल्यू है।
नहीं, कॉल का वैल्यू 16,500 में ठीक है, वो तो कॉल का वैल्यू तो अभी रहेगा क्योंकि इन द मनी हो चुका है। बाकी अगर आप दोनों तरफ देखेंगे तकरीबन
तो
दोनों
मैं वही बोलता हूँ दोस्त
जी।
वो मैं भी जानता हूँ। क्वांटिटी नहीं मालूम है मेरे को पुट का, पर इतना बड़ा वो कॉल राइटिंग हुआ है ना, तो ये स्क्वीज मारेगा, नथिंग एल्स।
वो तो आज मारा ना स्क्वीज, 16,500 पे भी राइटिंग था, 16,600 पे भी था, तो आज तो मारा ना एक बार स्क्वीज।
अच्छा, आज का एक्सपायरी
आज के एक्सपायरी में मारा ना।
बट सर प्रॉब्लम ये है कि विक्स डाउन है ना, इसकी वजह से पुट और कॉल दोनों के प्रीमियम डाउन है। बट अगर विक्स ने भी अगर 10-15% अप रहा 1-2 दिन में, तो पुट और कॉल दोनों के प्रीमियम अप रहेंगे और स्क्वीज दोनों साइड ज्यादा रहेगा सर।
चलो देखते हैं, या फैक्ट फाइंडर। फैक्ट फाइंडर।
Yeah, I wanted to ask Ravinder, who's joined as a speaker. He made a very interesting comment in one of the other spaces about what is the cash levels with domestic mutual funds if you include the balance funds.
Yeah, go ahead. I remember it was 13% types. I guess April or May end.
How you arrive at it? Because I somehow I'm not able to fathom that number, because what the data that I have seen for pure all equity based funds, is only about 3.5%, and that has come down. Okay, and typically mutual funds will hold 2.5% because of one is that they want to hold some money to deploy in bad times, and second of all, potential redemptions, if at all. But they will typically hold 2.5, so they will not go below that. And the equity funds is about 18 lakh crores, and balance fund is 1.5 lakh crores. So how did you arrive at 13%? I'm unable to
So
understand. If you
this
could just
this this was presented. This gets regularly presented in a Motilal report. They publish mutual fund data every month. I tracked it from there. I'm not sure if they are doing it wrong. Yeah, I tracked it from there. I didn't check mutual fund, each mutual fund how much cash they are holding.
ये रविंद्र जी, जब मार्केट अप होता है तो बेफ जो होता है दे विल रीबैलेंस द फंड फ्रॉम इक्विटी टू डेट बिकॉज द मार्केट इज रन अप सो मच, so the rebalancing in balance advantage will be there, which is roughly around 30,000 crores. So what do you think about that?
I don't have any view how movement will happen. I guess balance advantage fund they track at PE ratio of Nifty, and then they decide whether to have 60% allocation, 65% allocation on equity, and remaining on the debt. So they move from 50 to 70. I guess I'm not very sure, but they have what is forecast for Nifty PE for the 1 year forward, and then they move within the fund. They move how much allocation to have on the equity and the debt side. They move 5 bips on certain level, if I'm not wrong.
Fact Finder, actually, this
there was this Economic Times article, so I just put down the maths on the same question. So the article was kind of suggesting that हमारे पास बहुत पैसा है, कोई जितना FI बेचेगा हम खरीद लेंगे. But looking at the numbers, they're saying mutual funds cash balance is about 70,000 crore, given that it's about 6%. So in a crisis, they can take it down to like 1% if all of them agree. Then EPFO is another 20,000 crores. This is like next 6 months calculation. And SIPs is another 72,000 crores. Balance fund, what the figure Nilesh Shah gave was 75,000 crore can get generated if they switch allocation from 50% to 80% in a falling market. So I think he's basically saying we can defend a sharply falling market at lower levels. बट जो समर्थ भाई ने बोला वो 200% करेक्ट क्वेश्चन है that in a rising market the balance fund has to switch back into bonds and exit the equity. So we'll see some interesting fun and games.
But उसमें Srini, only Kotak BEF has the thing that they can go up to 10% debt and 90% equity and vice versa. तो दूसरे जो बैलेंस एडवांटेज फंड है ना उसमें 30-70 का रेशियो है. So that also we need to see.
He has given industry level like a 50 to 80. So yeah, you're right. A lot of even I found like 80 is a very high number for a BAF. I don't know who allows that limit. So
okay, so curiosity.
So to finish the unspoken conclusion, which I didn't put on my tweet, but basically this time an FI selling in excess of $1 billion over 3-4 days will start creating a serious mess if it happens. So it's not like an extraordinary number. We don't need like some $5 billion of selling, which we have not seen ever, and it sounds ridiculous. We need 3-4 days of $1 billion selling, and this DI equity will not be able to support.
ED, I just want to add that I have looked at data for mutual funds on the pure equity side, which does not include the balance side, but the pure equity side is several times the size of the balance side. And from that data over the last 10-12 years, I don't recall a time when the cash levels were greater than 4% in aggregate, and 4.5, and on the lower side, I've seen 2%. I don't think they've ever gone down to 1%. So I don't agree with whatever Mr. Nilesh Bhai said, because it's never happened even in 2020, or it's not happened in 2008. Based on the data that I have seen published by a couple of well-known institutional brokers, including the name that Ravinder mentioned, because they give you data scheme wise, mutual fund house wise. It's very, very detailed, and I have been looking at this data for the last 10-15 years on a monthly basis. So typically they range between 2 to 4%. So maybe 4.5. There are some funds who go to 6% and 7%, like Axis Mutual Fund, I think was at 8 or 9%. But on average, the aggregate is only between 2 to 4.5%.
Okay.
You're right. I mean, in a crunch, not even crisis, we don't need like some mega crash. In a crunch, that 4% has to be increased to 7-8% because it's usually accompanied by redemptions. So in theory, someone can say we have that 4% cash balance available to deploy. In reality, it's the other way around. So I totally agree with you.
And one more Saradji, just one more very important thing. The cash levels doesn't take into consideration the margin money that some of the schemes use for futures positions. So if you actually adjust for the futures positions, then the actual cash levels could be lower.
ठीक. Curiosity, बोलो भाई, unmute करके. नहीं बोलना चाहते हो? क्यूरियोसिटी, चलो। Handlined, handlined.
एनिल डेडिया,
बोलिए ना, अनम्यूट करके। चलो
एनिल एंड
Sir, I have no question. I was just listening और मैंने वो request डाल दिया था. I have no questions. Thank you, sir.
थैंक यू। राजीव
Ravinder, do you
सोनी
have
जी।
any questions or thoughts you want to share? You want to share some thoughts, Ravinder?
रविंद्र भाई बोलो।
No, I'll coming back to that report which I read. I need to go back and check if the data was wrong, but that was I read for
अरे
March or
जाने दो
April
ना
month.
उसको,
हाँ
उसको जाने
हाँ
दो ना, और कुछ बताओ, और
और
बताओ ना
सर
कुछ।
और अपने ऑयल की बात कर रहे थे मेरा एक डाउट है से व्हाट वी यूज्ड टू रीड फ्यू इयर्स बैक वाज शेल गैस विल बी प्रॉफिटेबल एट 60-65 डॉलर एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम अपने वेल्स जो होते थे यूएस के मेरे हिसाब से 1300-1400 समथिंग रिग काउंट रहते थे अभी उससे काफी कम है सो बोथ द डेटास आर नॉट टैलिंग के ऑयल प्राइस बहुत ज्यादा है बट वहां पे रिग काउंट बढ़ नहीं रहे and so what's the view if someone have on those sides?
The easy maths is they said the equipment and investment will run over 10 years or 15 years. In reality, they were going dry in 3 years. So all this break even at $65 and all was all fake. As somebody mentioned earlier, it was a Ponzi scheme. Negative interest rate पे तो कुछ भी चल रहा था. So they were just getting refinanced. And all that is stopped now with US 10-year at 3%. They can't do those things.
Ravinder, let me add one more thing, and there's a good amount of information that is available on Wood Mackenzie. I don't know if you've ever gone to that website, but they have amazing. They are one of the premier, consultants for the oil and gas and commodity sector. So, according to them, what has happened is that because of ESG, the shale. By the way, I just want to correct you. It's not shale gas; it's shale oil. At 55-60. What they said is that because of ESG, a lot of the shale guys are and the volatility of crude oil prices over the last 2.5 years is that they are focusing more on the wells where there is a higher propensity to a higher recovery potential recovery at lower prices. So rather than and secondly the drilling abilities of the new rigs are far better. So you try and use better quality rigs, fewer in number, on better wells, which explains why even though the number of rigs are not really rising much, um, they are the productivity is still improving because they are focusing on the better quality wells, and then they are henceforth not going to focus on wells that have potential, but the potential is not that great. That is the reason why you're seeing this divergence.
ओके, नाउ who's next? राजीव सोनी जी बोलिए।
Good evening. I just want to add one point about mutual funds से
नहीं नहीं,
related.
राजीव सोनी, राजीव गुप्ता नहीं, राजीव सोनी।
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Bhai Pathfinder. Yes, I just wanted to ask about two things over here. First, we have been taught since childhood to respect elders. So this is my answer. What the tweet has been done. So I'm really hurt with all this. So let's. My question to Fact Finder or Samad Bhai. Can you please explain me about this the particular thing which happened in stock market which I've been observing and I never understood this pump and dump thing like IEX happened in IRCTC because which I've studied with Monish Pabroy Fund, they have invested heavily in IEX and then the stock went crazy. And now you see where's the stock price. So how a normal investor like me will understand this irrationality of stock prices, particularly these kind of stocks which goes
so high and then come down. So how could we understand the irrationality? If you can please help me in that area.
No, I will try and speak something.
Okay,
मनीष
sir.
बाबरा है. आप एक दो इन्वेस्टमेंट बताओ जो सक्सेसफुल है इंडिया.
Sorry, Shah bhai.
इंडिया में
हाँ.
राजीव पाबराई का की जो भी नाम है
हाँ
उसका
हाँ.
कौन सा इन्वेस्टमेंट सक्सेसफुल होगा.
ये मोनिश पोबरे का जितना मैंने बोला आईएक्स और एडलवीज कैपिटल किया, बाकी अलीबाबा में था उनका चाइना में. और
इंडिया में तुम अलीबाबा में क्यों किधर घुसते.
इंडिया में आईएक्स और एडलवीज कैपिटल. और नहीं पता अशरद भाई, और इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं है.
तो छोड़ो ना वो अपने लिए who is nobody for us.
No, that I understood, but what is this pump and dump thing? Because then the novice trader could fall in trap, na? So without understanding sometime business, but the prices normally I see prices and also I just want to understand the concept of pump and dump. If anyone, yeah, fact finder, if you can.
Yeah, so Sharad ji, can I just say something out here?
Always.
See, Rajiv, the thing is, pump and dump has been happening in every market in the world, not only India, for several years. And a guy like Sharad ji, who's been, looking at the market for the last 50 years, I'm sure he has an idea. I mean, pump and dump has been happening forever. Okay, now the question is that you're talking about very specific stocks. See, at the end of the day, people want to try and make easy money. So what they do is that if a so-called well-known investor, buys a stock, retail people follow it, right? Now, specifically in case of IRCTC, uh, it's a very interesting case, and if this is purely based on my analysis of shareholding patterns, more than anything else. So there were two things that happened. One is there were a lot of so-called market experts which started calling IRCTC a platform, and you know how the word platform in the startup space became so exciting. So the moment people started calling IRCTC a platform company, you know, the stock multiples went up. What's really surprising is that during this entire rally, I'm talking about the rally for the last 18 months or more, a little more than 18 months, domestic mutual fund investors were selling out. The only guy who was actually buying the stock single handedly was LIC of India. Completely surprised me because they don't have the capacity to, in terms of research, know how to compete with the domestic mutual fund industry. So, why were the entire domestic mutual fund industry dumping the stock and only LIC buying it? I don't know who will have an answer to that. But what eventually happened is that IRCTC eventually was pulled up enough to get into the index, MSCI index. Once it gets into the MSCI index, that's the time when stocks are dumped. Unfortunately, that's the time more retail investors get into it because they say, now it becomes a part of the index. And people get stuck. And I think I find it very strange also that the government the ministry has been very, has been very wishy-washy in terms of regulation. One day they announce some regulation change which affects IRCTC. Within a matter of few hours, they completely reverse it. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking, but clearly they are also playing the market. And if you put LIC also, surprisingly buying that stock, and I don't know how they were able to justify it. And by the way, it's just not LIC has been doing it for several stocks, just not IRCTC over the last 18 months. And it's all public data. One can observe it if they want to. It's I have never seen in the last 20 years something like this. But yeah, as far as yeah, this is I just wanted to tell you. But at the end of the day, right? If you have to invest your personal money in the stock, you have to be damn. You got to do a lot of hard work on it. The last thing I wanted to mention to you, since you mentioned Monish Pabrai, I don't know him, but there was a very interesting presentation made by Samir Arora. He actually came out with a presentation where he actually completely what do you say, he put a he presented an exact opposite case to the theory that Manish Oberoi published called, where he said you simply follow good fund managers and buy in the same stocks, and that's called a free lunch. So
Yeah, yeah.
concept of a free lunch. Now the problem is that free lunch in theory looked nice, but in practice the fund continuously underperformed for 4 to 5 years, and 5 years is a decent enough time frame. But I think the best guy who's made a presentation on this free lunch and dismissing the free lunch theory by Monish Babrai is Samir Arora. I mean, that presentation by Samir Arora is one of the best presentations I have seen by a buy side person. You should watch it.
Thank you so much, Pathfinder. Thank you so much. So, other thing I would like to ask: so, how many quarters you must see to start before investing? If I take an example of TCS, so for the last 4 quarters I've been observing. So, do you think so? It's like my question is like how many quarters you should judge for to start investing results primarily.
That's a very tough question. I don't know.
So the point is, supposedly I've been observing like 4 quarters. It's been a year now with TCS. So as a value investor or whatever you say, if I want to put my money in that sector leader, so I'm in a dilemma. So what to do? Because it's the see again as an investor, with novice investor, it's difficult to understand all these balance sheet and all fundas. So if I go to conventional approach with all the big investors, you need a lot of money to become a value investor in long term holding. See, if you see example of any good stock, suppose take an example of HUL is a good FD returns for the last 5 years. But now from here, but with the rate of 2600, what do you think? Can it give a better returns FD returns? So again, the same dilemma and confusion with me. How to invest in this market again? See, the point is to be invested in the market because as a buyer.
You're confusing value investor and long term investor. There is honestly in India there is no concept of value by traditional metrics. Uh, you know, because you have very similar businesses across the world. In a lot of cases, they actually grow as well, if not better, with decent ROEs. And so there was this entire case. Well, let me just take you back to 2007, 2008. India's ROEs were very high back in 2007, 2008. We were almost 1.5 times, or maybe up to as much as 2 times, the return on equity of the rest of emerging markets or emerging markets in general. And so India deserved a very high PE multiple premium. Uh, Today, that return on equity differential is nothing. It's almost the same. In fact, I think the US is as high or higher than India. So there's no justification to give a super premium multiple to India. But because of the lack, India is a very illiquid stock market where a large chunk is held by promoters. And as a consequence of that, because of shortage of available choices, multiples of stocks have been going up. So I don't know whether you can call anything in India value investing. I would just simply say more like momentum investing. India is a great momentum investing market. But my advice to you, Rajiv, I think you need to spend 4 5 years of serious effort before you decide to start investing your personal money in this market. Till then, I think you should just stick to professional investors.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pathfinder. Thank you, Shad bhai. Thank you. See you soon.
Rajiv, just one thing on how long should gauge companies and trend before investing by your own. Apart from 4 5 years, at least see 2 3 bear cycle that will help you understand how any company was performing during a bear cycle, and that will help you hone your investing skill.
See, technically, I can add small bits on this to get a good filter. I think companies which are trading at least a decent amount of share volume every day, and if you take that filter at 5 lakh shares a day on a regular basis, you would be surprised to know that how many companies will come in that filter which are giving you daily 1 or 2% movement. So I think on a net everyday filter, if you run that filter, there will be hardly 250 300 stocks, and 80-90% of the volume on NSE will be done by top 150 stocks. So ideally, in a universe where 3,000 stocks are listed on NSE approximately, and 6 odd thousand on the BSE, the crux is that in India around 100 companies are only liquid enough to be traded every day. So and they do 80-90% of the business, and there are 300 liquid companies, out of which the top 150 will be doing 90% of NSE volume daily. So basically, you get restricted if you want to trade, you want to get good exit, good entry points, then you have to get restricted to those 150 200 companies. So that makes life easier, and then your focus list also comes down.
I will add one thing.
G.
If you really seriously want to invest, go into illiquid scripts. There the return is fabulous if your peak is right.
Agreed. If you are a risk taker and if you can do that, afford to do that, why not?
No. I am not a risk taker, but in illiquid stocks, in FN also, are a great buy. You think it over, there are 3 or 4 of them. आप लेके बैठ जाओ, कुछ काम करने का जरूरत नहीं है, सो जाओ.
Correct.
बहुत रुपया मिलेगा.
Correct. If your entry is right for whatever stock that
Your
you're buying,
entry is
then
wrong.
yes.
No,
Yeah.
entry is wrong also.
Illiquid stock entry is wrong, sir, then you might get beaten up very badly if the stocks starts going down. See, I'll give you example. I have.
अरे सर, मैं जो बोलता हूँ ना,
समझा मैं आपकी बात. I got your point. But I'm
जो
saying
भाव में भी लेगा वो भाव गलत है, और फिर भी पैसा आएगा, ऐसा बोलता हूँ.
सर अभी हम जस्ट एक मिनट, अभी हम बोलेंगे कि एसकेएफ में ब्रेकआउट है, कोई नहीं लेगा बिकॉज वो सोचेंगे कि बहुत कॉस्टली स्टॉक है, बट यहाँ से भी अगर 5-10% बढ़ गया एसकेएफ, इट कैन इजीली गिव 5-10% रिटर्न सर, बट कोई लेगा नहीं एसकेएफ को आज के दिन में.
नहीं, अरे एसकेएफ
नहीं लो ना, आप जितना वॉल्यूम है उतना ही तो ले पाओगे, वॉल्यूम से ज्यादा तो नहीं ले पाओगे ना. व्हाटएवर वॉल्यूम ऑन दैट स्टॉक, दैट ओनली यू कैन बाय. नो
नहीं सुरेंद्र, आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग पर्सनली, बट मैं जस्ट ऐसे बोल रहा हूँ, हम सबको
No, I was trying to explain for the knowledge of for everyone here present, that the market is a finite animal. You can buy only the stocks which are available. So if SKF breaks out on 2,000 shares, only 2,000 shares can be bought for a 5% gain. The next one share is not available. So just 2,000 shares, if it breaks out, then you buy those 2,000, which means in a country which has got 10 crore demat accounts, only 2,000 shares can be bought and sold for a 5% gain. तो सबका बन जाएगा 50-50 रुपए दिन का, 2,000 लोगों का. Fine, if you're happy in that, fine. So that is where you have to go to volume based breakouts, where कहीं आपने लिया 1,00,000, 1,50,000, 2,00,000 शेयर का वॉल्यूम ब्रेकआउट है, तो एटलीस्ट पार्टिसिपेशन तो बढ़ेगा ना. पार्टिसिपेशन भी तो जरूरी है ना, अगर आपको पैसे कमाने. खाली स्टॉक का भाव देखने से क्या होगा? एक शेयर ट्रेड हुआ और स्टॉक चला 20%, तो क्या हुआ? वो एक शेयर के ही तो पैसे बने ना, सबके थोड़ा ना बने. वो तो आपको खाली दिखेगा कि प्राइस आया और प्राइस गया, बट उसमें शेयर्स कितने अवेलेबल थे? 500, 1000, 2000. उसमें क्या कमाएंगे आप? वैसा बोल रहा हूँ.
ठीक है, मान लिया तेरा बात भाई. लिक्विड स्टॉक में ही करेगा, एबीबीसी में इसमें ही करेगा, बाकी सब तो इलिक्विड है.
नहीं, ऐसा मैंने नहीं बोला. जिसको जो रिस्क ले सकता है उसको करना चाहिए, बट सबके बस का नहीं.
मैं तेरे को बोलता हूँ सर्वेंद्र, ये जितना भी वॉल्यूम होता है ना, फेक वॉल्यूम होता है, समझा? वो लाखों में ट्रेड होता होगा. आप एक लॉट डालोगे ना, बिकेगा नहीं, मिलेगा नहीं. तो these are all computer generated volumes.
That I agree. Nowadays HFT is generating the main volume. Yes, agree. बट वो HFT भी वो 150-200 स्टॉक में ही लगा के रखा है लोगों ने. HFT उसी में लगा के रखा है सबने.
तो फायदा क्या है वो वॉल्यूम का? अच्छा ओके, चलो, डजंट सर्व एनी पर्पस. नीलेश भाई बोलिए.
शरद भाई नमस्कार, समर्थ भाई नमस्कार। सर्वेंद्र जी हमारे पुराने मित्र हैं और हमको सिखाया भी है बहुत सारा, तो उनको भी नमस्कार।
अरे नमस्कार सर, नमस्कार। आपको आपको भी बहुत बहुत नमस्कार। थैंक यू। बताएं।
बस तो सर मुझे थोड़ा मार्केट जो है पॉजिटिव लग रहा है और प्रॉब्ली पहले कुछ स्पेस पे भी मैंने बताया था कि जो लास्ट इन्फ्लेशन यूएस का आया था उसके सामने जो नया इन्फ्लेशन आया उसके सामने हम लोग ने मार्केट में S&P 500 में और निफ्टी में दोनों पे हायर बॉटम बनाया है। तो वी हैव टू वेट टिल द नेक्स्ट इन्फ्लेशन नंबर कम्स। दिस इज माय परव्यू। वो जब तक दूसरा इन्फ्लेशन आता है और वो लगता है कि इतना जो 9.1 था उससे नीचे ही रहेगा, तो उसके बाद मार्केट डिसाइड करेगा कि नेक्स्ट एक्शन क्या आएगा। तो ये 15 अगस्त तक ये मेरे हिसाब से बुल रन रहना चाहिए, ऐसा मुझे लग रहा है। ये दिस इज माय पर्सनल। थोड़ा
हाँ
मैंने
कोई वादा नहीं, पर्सनल हो या पब्लिक हो, बराबर बोला, सुनेंगे हम लोग। हाँ
फिर बाद में आगे क्या होता है 17,500 जो है मार्च एंडिंग का, वो आपका डोमेस्टिक का आप बोलो क्लोजिंग, वहां पे मार्केट जो है वहां पे थाक खाएगा। वहां पे क्या करता है, वहां से रिवर्सल मारता है, क्या करता है वो देखेंगे हम लोग सर।
और ऑयल में क्या लगता है?
ऑयल लगता है $65 सर। पहले भी बोला था, अभी भी बोल रहा हूँ, ऑयल $65 लग रहा है।
कब तक?
3-4 महीने में हो जाएगा सर।
परफेक्ट, सही जवाब।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू।
हाँ मैंने अभी बोला था 70-80 हो जाएगा और नवंबर तक।
तो
नहीं है
सर्वेंद्र जी ने थोड़ा सिखाया है हमको, थोड़ा थोड़ा सीखे हैं हम भी सर।
नहीं नहीं, बहुत अच्छा सीखे हैं आप। बट देखिए, मेरा खाली यहाँ पे एक डाउट यही था, और जो 2008 का भी रिपीट हुआ, जब क्रूड सेकंड लेग में गिरना शुरू होता है तो अपने साथ सबको लेके जाता है। और ये इफ यू गो बैक इन हिस्ट्री, ये 3-4 बार हो चुका है। एंड वो स्टार्ट अगस्त के महीने में ही होता है। मैंने अभी यही स्पेसेस पे भी स्टार्ट में भी यही बोला कि अगस्त का महीना क्रिटिकल है। अगर अगस्त के महीने में बाजार बच गया तो बच जाएगा, नहीं तो
सर
एक बार बाजार को सुला डालेंगे।
सर ये बार क्या हो रहा है ना, हिस्ट्री पूरा बदल रहा है। बदल क्यों रहा है? आप देखो, जो भी मैट्रिक्स है ना सारे चेंज हो रहे हैं। डॉलर और आपका डॉलर इंडेक्स और यूरो पैरिटी पे आ गया, यानी जो नहीं सोचते हैं वो चीज हो रहा है। तो ऐसे भी हो सकता है कि क्रूड गिरे और बाजार बढ़ जाए, ऐसे भी हो सकता है ना सर।
वो तो हर बार हम यही सुनते हैं कि हिस्ट्री दिस टाइम इट इज डिफरेंट, बट बाजार में आपको भी मालूम है ऐसा होता नहीं है।
नहीं
सो
नीलेश भाई,
लेट्स सी, फिंगर्स क्रॉस्ड। आई थिंक अभी तो मोमेंटम पॉजिटिव है, अभी 2-4-5 दिन चलना चाहिए। फेड की पॉलिसी के बाद क्या करवट बाजार पकड़ेगा वो देखते हैं, बट फेड की पॉलिसी तो जाने देना चाहिए।
नहीं नीलेश भाई, एक बात बोलता हूँ। अगर
हाँ बोलिए
क्रूड
सर।
जाता है, नीचे जाता है, तो अपना बाजार डब्बा हो जाएगा, डब्बा।
अभी वो तो सर बाजार
नहीं
को
नहीं,
जो करना है वो करेगा, मैं नहीं बोलता हूँ कुछ भी।
अरे भाई,
नहीं नहीं, इफ
जैसे तू
आई ऑल्सो
बोलता है
एग्री, इफ
वैसे मैं
फॉलिंग
बोलता हूँ।
क्रूड इज फॉलिंग मार्केट, इफ द मार्केट हैज टू राइज देन क्रूड आल्सो हैज टू राइज। इट हैज टू ब्रेक पास्ट 112।
सर माय व्यू, क्रूड नेगेटिव होगा ऐसा व्यू नहीं है मेरा। पहली बात, अभी अभी नेगेटिव होगा ऐसा व्यू नहीं है। 65 आएगा वापस, 100-105 मारेगा और बाद में 2027 तक नेगेटिव हो जाएगा क्रूड।
ओह, आप तो फिर तो आप बहुत लंबा नेगेटिव बोल रहे हैं। फिर तो आप बाजार के लिए भी ठीक है, वो तो देखेंगे। करेक्ट। सो
चलिए,
या
इनफ ऑफ इट।
No,
सादिक भाई बोलिए।
sir, I wanted to ask a question, Nilesh. What are your thoughts on the currency right now?
Which USD INR?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are stabilizing somewhere around 80 half or something like that. आज ही रिवर्सल मारा है. We saw some kind of a small reversal. Let's see how it copes up. We have to relate it with dollar index also. Dollar index the weekly close आज negative आ जाएगा, तो probably USD INR भी cool off हो जाएगा coming अगस्त मीन्स जुलाई एंड तक, ऐसा लग रहा है मुझे। कांस्टेंट आरबीआई का इंटरवेंशन दिख रहा है मेरे को।
नहीं, ये वेडनेसडे को एक्सपायरी है ना।
हाँ तो सर ये वेडनेसडे को एक्सपायरी होने दो ना सर। वो जिसका भी ये रहेगा ना अपना जो कॉर्पोरेट लेवल का है, क्योंकि मैंने ट्रेजरी में भी कॉर्पोरेट्स का काम किया है, तो कॉर्पोरेट वाले जो है ना सर, वो लोग अगस्त एंड तक का ये लोग करेंगे, जो भी है मार्किंग उन लोग का जो भी है अगस्त एंड, बुक्स में अगस्त एंड तक का रहेगा। तो टाटा होगा या जो भी होगा, जो भी है
राजवीर
पाउंड। हाँ बोलो सर।
एक सवाल पूछ।
हाँ बोलो ना सर।
और 30 जून के बाद में डॉलर ज्यादा बढ़ा,
हाँ
तो एक क्वार्टर में जिसको करेंसी का लगता है उसको मार पड़ेगा या फायदा होगा?
सर मैं एक आपको एक बहुत कॉमन सेंस वाला आपको सवाल बोलते,
नहीं, एक
सवाल का
मिनट,
जवाब दे
लेट
रहा
मी
हूँ। नहीं नहीं एक
कंप्लीट।
मिनट, मेरे को सर कंप्लीट करने
नहीं
दीजिए।
नहीं, लेकिन सवाल तो
नहीं नहीं, मैं सर ऐसे भी हो सकता है ना कि डॉलर लॉन्ग कर लिया हो, क्योंकि सब लोगों को पता था कि ये क्राइसिस है, रशिया यूक्रेन का क्राइसिस है।
अरे मैं वही बोला, वो जिसको लॉन्ग है
हाँ
उसको फायदा होगा और किसको नुकसान होगा।
हाँ, तो वो
और
तो
लॉन्ग है कि शॉर्ट है वो भूल जाओ।
हाँ,
आप बैलेंस शीट बनाता है तो डॉलर रुपी रेट का फायदा होता है या लॉस होता है बैलेंस शीट में?
अरे वो तो सर एडजस्टमेंट करते हैं, सब लोग अदर इनकम में एडजस्टमेंट करते हैं, वो बैलेंस शीट में दिखाते ही नहीं है सर।
अरे ओके, मैं अभी सवाल पूछूं?
हाँ बोलो ना सर।
और परमिशन है?
अरे है ना सर, क्यों आप अरे सर आप
तो
ऐसा
मेरे
मत बोलो
सवाल
सर।
तो पूछने दे मेरे को।
हाँ हाँ बोलो ना सर।
ये जो एडजस्टमेंट हुआ
हाँ
अभी सितंबर में, मेरे को लगता है 82 हो जाएगा।
हाँ,
तो और कितना एडजस्ट करेगा, कितना फॉरवर्ड लेगा?
अरे वो सर उन लोग का जो ट्रेजरी वाला रहेगा ना, डिपार्टमेंट वाला, अभी समझो टाटा सन्स का ट्रेजरी वाला है, वो कॉल लेगा उन लोग का सर। 100 जन का टीम बैठा है, वो लोग कॉल लेगा क्या करना है क्या नहीं करना है। वो अपने से बहुत स्मार्ट है सर। मैं बोलता हूँ हम लोग कुछ भी नहीं है उन लोग के सामने, अपने से बहुत स्मार्ट है। दे नो हाउ टू प्ले ऑल दिस। वो और सब इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे होता है ये। अपना इधर तो सब छोटा मार्केट है, करेंसी का बहुत बड़ा मार्केट है भी नहीं सर। तो मंथ एंड का जो क्लोजिंग है वो इम्पोर्टेंट है, और फिर वो घूमना है तो घूम भी जाते हैं वो लोग का। जो इन्फोसिस का बुक रहेगा या विप्रो का रहेगा या टीसीएस का रहेगा, जो भी है इंपोर्टर एक्सपोर्टर, जो छोटे छोटे हैं ना सर, जो आप मिड कैप्स वाले हैं, उन लोगों को कुछ भी पता नहीं है करेंसी के बारे में। जीरो नॉलेज है, जीरो नॉलेज। बड़े कॉर्पोरेट है उनको कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है।
ठीक है। और सामर्थ क्या
हाँ
बोलना चाहते हैं?
सर, ये नीलेश जी के फैक्ट फाइंडर के लिए क्वेश्चन है कि 4 कंपनीज हैव टेकन ईसीबीज ऑन द फ्रॉम द आउटसाइड, यानी ईसीबी लिया है, एक्सटर्नल कमर्शियल बोरोइंग लिया है, जिसमें नाम है, एक है अदानी पोर्ट, सेकंड है श्रीराम ट्रांसपोर्ट फाइनेंस, थर्ड है एचडीएफसी, एंड फोर्थ है कैडिला हेल्थ केयर। तो इन लोगों ने जो बॉन्ड लिया है एसीबी का, तो उनको कोई प्रॉब्लम होगा या पॉजिटिव रहेगा, क्या होगा यानी ये करेंसी फ्लक्चुएशन में?
अभी सर एक नाम तो लिया है, तो वो तो स्टॉक खींच के एडजस्ट कर देगा। अडानी तो स्टॉक खींच के एडजस्ट कर देगा, उसका जो ऊपर नीचे करने का है वो। श्रीराम ट्रांसपोर्ट का मुझे पता नहीं है। एचडीएफसी आई डोंट नो, आई कांट कमेंट। या वो लोग ऊपर नीचे जो भी बैलेंस शीट में दिखाना होगा दिखाएगा, और एक बार मार्क टू मार्केट लॉस भी ले लेगा। दैट कैन ऑल्सो हैपन। और कौन सा बोला?
कैडिला हेल्थ केयर।
हाँ, मैं नहीं ट्रैक करता हूँ कैडिला हेल्थ केयर।
I just want to add a couple of things. I don't think it's very important to look at what proportion of their borrowings is ECB. And Cadilla, a fair bit of its earnings are dollar based, so I wouldn't too worry too much about it. Shriram Transport Finance as well, again, a very small part of the borrowing is ECB.
19,000 करोड़ है फैक्ट फाइंडर।
Out of how much?
आउट ऑफ वो देखना पड़ेगा, बट 19,000 करोड़ ईसीबी का फंडिंग है बैलेंस शीट के अंदर। 2022 का
Talking about
उसका जो
specifically, right?
That's 2.2 billion dollars here. छोड़ो।
Out of how much? So,
Their AUM is about 1,10,000 crore times Shriram Transport. 1 lakh above crore AUM.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be too worried about it. And similarly, Adani, remember, a lot of the earnings are in the port, and the port usually many times they charge. I mean, it is fixed in rupees, but they can adjust it. See, remember, Adani has 60% of India's private port capacity. They are a monopoly. I won't, and it's a cash. It's the only proper cash generating business within the Adani group. So I wouldn't be very worried about that. And what was the last company? Which Adani, Shriram,
Adani, Shriram Transport, Kedila Healthcare and HDFC Limited.
again HDFC Limited. I won't be too worried about that either. Remember now HDFC Limited moves along with HDFC Bank, so it's irrelevant.
And GMR also.
अरे यार छोड़ो ना यार, क्या है, क्या
Okay.
नॉनसेंस हो, फालतू
You
का
should
क्या
be
है.
worried about the smaller companies that have taken foreign borrowings rather than the bigger companies. And one needs
कुमार भाई हाथ नीचे करो. समझ एक एक कंपनी का क्या मतलब है. हाँ सादिक भाई बोलो.
सर कैसे हैं?
हाँ मजे में भाई.
हाँ सर, ये पूछना था कि जब हम लोग पोर्टफोलियो में कोई स्टॉक लेते हैं ना, तो लॉन्ग के हिसाब से, तो अगर प्राइस नीचे आ जाता है तो हम उसको रख लेते हैं। तो अगर इसी तरह हमने कोई चीज शॉर्ट की है तो उसको भी बिना डरे रख सकते हैं ना, सिर्फ मार्क टू मार्केट ही भरना होता है कि फिर मतलब अब मैं कुछ लोगों से पूछता हूँ तो वो बोलते हैं अरे स्टॉप लॉस लगा के काम करो तो बेटर रहेगा, ये जो भी है। लेकिन अभी जैसे मेरे पास दो तीन चीजें शॉर्ट की हुई है तो मैं उसको मतलब पीसफुली रख सकते हैं ना, सिर्फ मार्क टू मार्केट
हाँ
भरना होगा तो हम भर देंगे।
हाँ हाँ
हाँ।
पक्का.
हाँ ठीक है। और सर वो आपने अभी बताया ना कि वो दो तीन शेयर हैं एफएनओ में है और लिक्विड नहीं है, तो वो कौन से स्टॉक्स है सर?
मालूम नहीं है.
हमको कैसे पता चलेगा सर फिर?
ढूंढो.
नहीं मिलता है सर, बहुत ढूंढे सर, उसे बाल जा रहे हैं, अब तो इतना ढूंढ रहे हैं।
फिर कभी.
अच्छा, और एक चीज सर, वो मोनिश पॉबराय का बात चल रहा था ना, तो उन्होंने इंडिया में सबसे ज्यादा पैसा बनाया है सत्यम के स्टॉक में। तो हाँ, वो आपने किसी से क्वेश्चन किया था ना, तो उसके पास जवाब नहीं था, मैंने बोला आपको बता दूं, ब्लू डार्ट सत्यम, ये दो में उसने सबसे ज्यादा पैसा बनाया।
अल्टीमेटली फ्रॉड निकला ना सत्यम.
हाँ सर, वही 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 वही, सत्यम तो फ्रॉड
पैसा बनाना कोई बड़ा बात नहीं है.
हाँ
कंपनी बराबर आइडेंटिफाई करना अच्छा बात है.
हाँ, एग्जैक्टली एग्जैक्टली।
बोलो.
तो यही दो तीन
अब
चीज।
कुमार भाई बोलिए.
Good evening, everybody.
गुड इवनिंग.
I'm thankful to Fact Finder and Sharad ji for highlighting the Fact Finder had raised an issue about the forex reserves, which are partially owned and partially loan, which RBI or Government of India has to refund to the deposit holders who have given loans to RBI and forex. And secondly, to Sharad Bhai, who estimated that in September USD can touch 82. I would now like to invite everybody's attention to day before yesterday after market, Mr. S.C. Garg, who was Niti Ayog, everybody knows chairman, and he has categorically stated that out of $580 billion RBI reserves, $250 billion is refundable, is loaned, is not owned, which implies only 230 billion US dollar is owned by RBI. Now, if we are running a current account deficit of $25 billion a month, it implies that we only have 10 months forex reserves.
No, it's not true.
It might be wrong. Day before yesterday on CNBC, it has come.
No. My point is करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट है, लेकिन अपने को गिनना है कि ये एक कौन सा अकाउंट बोलते हो, वो देखना है। वो जैसे 13-14 बिलियन ही आता है।
I think Fact Finder also has raised his hands, but before I complete, I would only say, for me, I am short Indian rupee, I am long USD, and I have a reason to believe that in next 1 year we are touching 85. If there is recession in Europe, the way they have increased the rates, if there is recession in US, किसको बेचेंगे इंडियन एक्सपोर्टर लोग? एक सबसे बड़ा सवाल यही उठता है। प्लीज फैक्ट फाइंडर टेक इट फ्रॉम मी। थैंक यू।
No, I just wanted to say that the comment that I made about differentiating between reserves that are earned and reserves that are owned. I mean, reserves that are borrowed and reserves that are earned. I was making an example of net export oriented countries like Japan, China, Korea, where their reserves are by virtue of their trade, and hence their be it services and commodities or whatever, hard, I mean basically hard stuff as well as services and goods. And that um, it's not because of capital that is coming into their country, but mostly the trade and services that they do. That's how they earn their forex reserve. In case of India, uh, let me put it this way: our forex reserves is $580 billion. Now, what are our liabilities? Our liabilities are borrowings like ECB. Our liabilities are FDI in effect. Our liabilities are FII holdings in India, right? So if you add actually all of that together, uh, then the total liabilities is greater than the reserves. Now, some of these liabilities are near term, some of these liabilities are longer term. Some of the liabilities could be just permanent investments in India. So I'm just saying that India's forex reserves are in a way borrowed because of the liabilities that are there. While that is not the case with forex reserves of countries like China, Korea, Japan, where they actually in fact, they are taking their money and investing in other markets and buying out stakes in other markets. Like Japan's investing so much of FDI in India, or China is investing so much FDI across the world, or Korea is doing the same thing. So that's what I wanted to differentiate.
No, one thing, India is India has a unique way of uh, uh, computing reserves, very unique way, which is not at all possible in foreign countries. If we take the deposits of NRI to whatever they are, 100, 200, then total FII holding, which is approximately $500 billion, and so many other things. So R is actually when the methodology was changed of calculating reserves. That's how it became $600, 600 or $700 billion. नहीं तो 2014-15 में वो 200-250 ही रहा करता था. We changed the methodology. That is why we think our reserves are high. That's what is stated. बोलो कुमार भाई.
I just also wanted to make a fact that people who can view the same interview on net money control, there was also a figure which came out of the mouth of Mr. Garg about the repayments which are due in next 1 year, and I was shocked. I am not going to state that figure. I just
अरे 265 बोला था कि वो ऐसा कुछ बोला.
No, I
सर
think
मैं
the
सर मैं
figure
कुछ
is
नहीं
about
बोलूंगा.
$250 billion. It's a known figure. It's a well-known figure. $250 billion order, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So where do our results go then, and where does the rupee head? Just a food for thought. Thank you.
नहीं 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 नहीं, वैसे नहीं होता है सर. मोस्ट ऑफ देम आर रोल्ड ओवर और रिफाइनेंस्ड. इतना कुछ तकलीफ नहीं है उसमें. ये तो एवरी ईयर का है. ये साल का है वैसा नहीं है, एवरी ईयर का है. तो आई वुडंट उतना ध्यान नहीं देगा मैं.
I agree. I don't think we should be overtly concerned. The only thing is, I would just say is that I think the most interesting, Kumar, if you could just tweet out that interview link, it'll be helpful. I'm happy to see it myself. But meanwhile, I just wanted to highlight Neelkant Mishra of Credit Suisse, who's also part of the PM's Economic Advisory Council, wrote an article recently, about a week and a half ago, where I was surprised that he spoke about potential. In effect, was advising RBI to allow the rupee to depreciate by 3% every quarter. That, to my mind, was a surprise because that's an annualized rate of over 12%. That is shocking, if you ask me. If that's what the RBI eventually implements, I don't know what to think about the rupee.
I will do it, sir. Don't worry. I will tweet it to you. The interview link.
नहीं नहीं, वो ठीक
Thank
है
you.
यार, वो तो बोलेगा. उसका बोलना सोचना अलग है, आपका सोचना बोलना अलग है, मेरा अलग है, फैक्ट फाइंडर का अलग है, सबका अलग रहता है. ठीक है यार, वो बोलेगा. हम जो समझता है वही समझता है. ये अभी एक दूसरा बात है. सिचुएशन इज वेरी ग्रीम. नो नो, स्टॉक मार्केट का नहीं बोलता, इन द इकोनॉमी वेरी ग्रीम. इज समर्थ बोल रहा था कि some of the industries are shut for a month, 15 days because of various technical, not not technical, economical reasons. जब गवर्नमेंट बच्चे लोग का स्कूल पे पेंसिल और दूध पे न, कितना वो जीएसटी आएगा? 8,000 करोड़. तो क्या अपने इतना? अच्छा, दूसरा, क्रीमेटोरियम सर्विसेज पे 12 से 18% बढ़ा दिया. तो साला अभी मैं मरूंगा भी नहीं, क्योंकि साला महंगा पड़ेगा. उससे अच्छा जिंदा ही रहूंगा. सो besides that, what is this? What's happening in our country यार? क्रीमेटोरियम पे क्रीमेटर क्या है कुमार भाई, बोलो ना.
सर ये जो फिगर देख रहे हैं ना हम लोग कि हर महीने में 1,45,000 करोड़ जीएसटी, 1.5 लाख करोड़. मैं खाली एक रिक्वेस्ट आज भी निर्मला सीतारमन को कल भी किया था, आज भी किया था. प्लीज डिक्लेयर the amount of refunds which are pending and which you people are not giving under GST regime. मेरी 3
कुमार भाई,
फॉर्म्स यहाँ पे मैं पार्टनर है. मेरा 3.5 करोड़ आज 3 साल से पेंडिंग है. 3.5 करोड़ रुपया. अगर उसका बैंक का ब्याज पकड़ूंगा तो मैं बैंक को ही खाली ब्याज दे रहा हूँ, मैं कमा कुछ नहीं रहा हूँ सर.
अरे पण ये आप 2 मिनट के बाद में बोल सकते थे ना, हाथ क्यों ऊपर करते हो? और तुम्हारा पैसा रुक गया 3.5 करोड़.
यस सर.
ओह, वेरी बैड, वेरी बैड. आवे तो 50 लाख बेच देना. ओके.
अरे सर पूरा आप ले लो, वैसा भी
अरे
गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया के पास पड़ा
आएगा
है,
ही
आप तो
नहीं,
कमा
आएगा
के
ही
दोगे.
नहीं, आएगा ही नहीं. ये मैं क्या बोलता हूँ? व्हाट्स हैपनिंग इन आवर कंट्री? व्हाई एवरीबॉडी इज टॉकिंग मार्केट ऊपर, ये वो. क्या फर्क पड़ता है? आम जनता को क्या फर्क पड़ता है? अपने को भी क्या फर्क पड़ता है? ठीक है, आया थोड़ा पैसा, लग गया थोड़ा पैसा, चलता है. बट लिविंग इन सच अ सोसाइटी is detrimental for everybody. Then, and I heard Sushil Kedia's, 'Kedia's, 'Kedia's, 'Kedia's' 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 ' space means he was on a space. He's so anti-Muslim, and he said we should get together and genocide and all that. क्या क्या इतना क्या what rabid? Why can't we live in a society as society? Yeah? Why? Let us all be together. Anybody of any caste, religion has a Indian passport, so we are all Indians. Nowhere on your passport it is written you are Hindu or Muslim or a, a Kasai or whatever. Nowhere, nowhere, nowhere. You have an Indian passport. मोदी साहब बोलता है हम सब एक है, तो क्यों ये सब इतना सब? और सुशील केडिया को क्या मतलब है इतना जनून? ये इतना जनून है ना, आदमी को ले डूबता है। इतना जनून, आपसे सब अलग हो जाते हैं, वो धुतकारते हैं आपको। मैंने उसको ब्लॉक कर दिया, ये सुना ना तो ब्लॉक मार दिया। फोन पे भी ब्लॉक मारा। नहीं चाहिए ऐसे लोग लाइफ में। इतना हेट्रेड, इतना हेट्रेड। मेरे मन में हेट्रेड शब्द नहीं है। मेरे मन में एक शब्द है दुख होता, बस दैट्स ऑल। और मैं 2-3 दिन में मैं भूल जाता हूँ। व्हाट नॉनसेंस। और दूसरा बात है, आई प्रोक्लेम this stock market, there is a scam which I am not able to figure it out. Somehow or the other, I'll figure it out in a month or 15 days or 2 months. There is a scam. No market can behave like this forever. Please, I'm not saying companies are bad or companies are good, but the valuations are way high, way high, way high. And last thing, everybody says मैं 5 साल के लिए लेता हूँ, 10 साल के लिए हूँ, 20 साल। अरे पागल, 2 साल के बाद में ये कंपनी रहेगी कि नहीं मालूम नहीं है। कितना कंपनियों का एग्जाम्पल दे दो आपको कि ब्लू चिप था, वो अभी ब्लैक चिप बन गया। कोई गलती से भी, except few companies, you should ask a question before you invest. Will this company be there after my grandchildren dies? वो तो ही वो शेयर ले, वरना मत लो। ये पावर पंटिंग के लिए ठीक है। Ask this question first of all. एक एक कंपनी 100-200 साल रहने वाला है तो ही लो, उतार चढ़ाव आता रहेगा। ये सब फालतू कचरा स्टॉक मत लेना। आरती ना, ये ना, वो पोली कैब, शिट में शिट कंपनीज है, quoting at unreasonable. Now, this AU Small Finance Bank, it earns on an average 1,000 crores a year, and it has a valuation of 37,000 crores. I'm amazed. क्या? What nonsense. 4 का पी होना चाहिए at the most. 4-5, तो तुम 5,000 का 36,000 देता। ऐसा सब शेयर लेना मत, कभी भी लेना मत, लेना मत, लेना मत। हिंदुस्तान लीवर लो, महंगा है और महंगा होएगा, पर वो कंपनी 100 साल चलेगा, 200 चलेगा, भाव में गड़बड़ होएगा। So keep one thing in mind, longevity of the company. You will be surprised. On an average, the longevity of all companies put together is only 4 years. 4 years is the average of all the companies. अभी तुम्हारा कम हाथ में आ गया कोई ऐसा वैसा कम नहीं है, क्या फर्क। ये ये जो आप आईएक्स का बोला कोई, ये क्या धंधा है क्या? वो ठीक है, प्रॉफिट होता होगा, और ये धंधा है क्या? कुछ एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट इज मिनिमम 4 करोड़ या 10 करोड़, आई डोंट रिमेम्बर। तो ऐसा कंपनी का क्या करेगा तुम, क्या, आई डोंट, इतना पी देता है। इंडिया में हर चीज महंगा है, हर चीज महंगा है। ओके, वन लास्ट थिंग, कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग इन इंडिया इज हायर देन यूएस। ग्रोसरी बिल, ओ, कटिंग चाय छोड़ के और पाव वड़ा छोड़ के सब महंगा है। यू गो टू अ रेस्टोरेंट, यू गो टू अ थिएटर, इट्स एक्सपेंसिव। आप पीवीआर में जाते हो 500-600 रुपया, उधर भी लगता है। चलिए, आज थक गया मैं, और कोई बोलो।
सर जो आप बात कर रहे थे फैक्ट्रीज, उमर भाई आपको लेता हूं मैं 5 मिनट। तो आपको जो बोल रहे थे अभी, मोरबी विच इज द सेरेमिक हब ऑफ इंडिया इज शट डाउन फॉर नियरली 1 मंथ। अभी तो 1 महीना बोला है, दे आर सेइंग 45 डेज भी हो सकता है। Plus the nearby paper industry, which has around 60 plus paper recycling factories, it is shut by around 10 to 15 days because उनके पास रॉ मटेरियल नहीं है, और सप्लाई चेन डिस्टर्ब होने की वजह से इंपोर्ट भी नहीं हो रहा है। तो ये दो जो है विच आर एक्सपोर्ट ओरिएंटेड बिजनेस, एक एक्सपोर्ट है एक इंपोर्ट है, तो दोनों साइट बंद है अभी। एंड दे आर हाईली, यानी उनका वॉल्यूम होता है अप्रोक्सीमेटली डेली का अराउंड 15 to 20 लाख डॉलर्स डेली का, इंडस्ट्रीज का। तो दैट इज शट फॉर नियरली, जो सेरेमिक है वो अराउंड 30 to 45 डेज, और पेपर 10 to 15 डेज।
हाँ कुमार भाई बोलो।
समर भाई, आपका खाली एक सवाल का छोटा जवाब देना चाहूंगा। आई एम ऑल्सो इंटरेस्टेड इन वन ऑफ द पेपर इंडस्ट्रीज वेयर द प्रॉब्लम इज after Donald Trump became the president of United States of America, he has started recycling units by virtue of which we are not getting scrap. When scrap is not coming, how will पैकिंग मटेरियल क्राफ्ट पेपर जिसको ब्राउन जो जो बॉक्स बनाने को काम आता है, तो हाउ विल दे मैन्युफैक्चर? तो इसीलिए हमारी पेपर की इंडस्ट्री की आप एक साल में देखेंगे तो 40% प्राइसेस बढ़ चुकी है। खैर, वो तो आपका सवाल का जवाब हो गया। द वन पॉइंट व्हिच आई वांटेड टू मेक इज आई हैव आल्सो यस्टरडे एंड डे बिफोर यस्टरडे ट्वीटेड टू द ऑनरेबल फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर सेइंग that you have reduced corporate taxes from 33% to 25%. You have also introduced PLI scheme. And with all these things, that still the GST collection is 1.45 lakh crores in a month. Why are the refunds not being issued? And I'm yet to receive the reply. Just for the information, I'm just putting it. Thank you, sir.
अरे तुम क्या बात करता है, तुम फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर को ट्वीट करेगा, वो आंसर देगा यार। आप किधर हो कुमार भाई? दिस इज इंडिया, आंसर का एक्सपेक्ट मत करो। हेलो?
हाँ सर, मैं सुन रहा हूँ सर।
हाँ, आंसर मत एक्सपेक्ट करो, शांति रखो।
बस सर दुआ करता हूँ ऊपर वाले से जवाब आ जाए।
आ जाएगा, आ जाएगा। बोलो और कोई? तो बंद करे समझ भाई।
Yeah, fact finder has to say something, sir.
Yes, yes,
I,
yes,
I,
always.
I was just, since Sharad ji had talked about the cost of living, I was very surprised about one observation of mine recently. So I was looking at the prepaid, plans for Airtel, and Voda Idea. for 2 GB a day or 3 GB a day. It's anywhere between 500 rupees for a 2 GB a day, and 600 rupees for a 3 GB a day per 28 days. What was surprising is that these rates are almost as high as developed markets like Singapore. Now, think about it. Our tax rates are significantly higher than those countries, and our economy is far cheaper, poorer, and the volume that we use, the number of people with connections is significantly higher. I mean, like Singapore's 5 million, 5 million population. We have a population which has a mobile phone which is about 800 million. That's like almost 160 times. And but I'm just saying that in absolute terms, we are almost, in rupee terms, as expensive as Singapore for mobile prepaid. That, to my mind, is a huge surprise considering the tax rates for individuals over there are significantly lower than the tax rates for individuals over here. So
No, fact finder, it's not Singapore only because of whatever, but world over, यार, अपना standard of living, अरे जो भी बोलता है, वो cost is very, very, very high.
no, Sharadji, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm just trying to say that the one of the things that we used to be proud of was saying that data is super cheap in India, right? It is not anymore.
नहीं, और ये जो श्रीनिवासन फॉर यू, ये जो 5 रुपये में, ये 2 रुपये में सैचे बेचता है, वो इतना महंगा होता है. If you calculate per liter or whatever, it's so fucking expensive. Man, if you order one anything in a packet, so if you calculate, you will say, suppose you order what something कि 100 रुपये का है 100 ग्राम, वो तो 1000 रुपये होते हैं, और वैसे मिलता है 300 रुपये. Crazy, यार, everything is crazy in this country. And what bugged me the most is this is GST on crematorium services for the wood. Are you that illogical? So I'm not going to die. Come what may, I will not die. कौन भरेगा GST? आप बोलो, बोलो, backfinder बोलो.
No, Idi, you want to say something on this?
नहीं मतलब see on this telecom data and the FMCG P company spike and all that. I've said this earlier a few months back. Hopefully everyone's forgotten. ये थोड़ा अफ्रीका सिचुएशन है. मतलब नाइजीरिया में फॉर एग्जांपल Cadbury and Nestle trade at very high P's because they're the only clean companies there. I can say it bluntly now that I don't have that job. I'm not in that region anymore. So, similarly, telecom costs there in dollar terms is more expensive than, say, New York. So, it's not a good sign. If you map all indices, social security, physical security, then women participation in formal economy, in labor force, all those things are trending quite badly. Like for us, a lot of foreign investors, since this is a market discussion, also foreign investors track women participation in formal labor force a lot because every country that has done well long term has seen women come into the labor force, and often people debate what comes first. So the sociologists debate, argue, and quite successfully, that treating women better lets them come into the workforce, and that leads to economic boom. which then is a positive cycle. And some guys say no, an economic boom helps you be nicer to everyone in society, and so more women come into workforce. Either way is net net. China, Vietnam, all the Asian tigers, some of the African countries, they've all done well, and they've shown this massive spike, not spike, sorry, long term bull run, like a real good bull run in women coming into the workforce across levels, across types of jobs, blue collar, white collar.
You know, the way the women are treated in India, it really galls me, yaar.
Sir, in
Every
India, in
time.
the last decade, this number is falling. So, at a structural level, matlab, it's a very worrying trend. It's not even theory anymore. अभी सबको पता है, सबको दिख रहा है. So, it's not even deniable anymore. Very worrying trend for our future.
So, if you take parliament also, how many females are there? Out of 563 or 543, whatever it is, how many women are there? So, at the top only, there is a social problem and it percolates down the line and everybody is butchered. Srini, my point was if we sell in small sachets like 10 grams, 5 grams, isn't it expensive than a 1 liter bottle?
Absolutely. The hit is as so it's cruel in many ways because someone who's as it is economically less surplus is now paying 5 times, 10 times, 3 times per liter of shampoo over 1 year, and now compound this over 20 years. So as it is, अगर monthly किसी के पास 3,000 रुपया है of spare after food, clothing, rent, and some basic education for a child. A huge number of FMCG households are in this 2-3 हजार रुपए का बजट है, उसमें हम सब लड़ते थे या लड़ते हैं. From Coca-Cola to Cadbury chocolate to Lever's Lux shampoo to Nirma, everybody's fighting in this 3,000 rupees. Now imagine over 30-year, 50-year economically active lifetime, you're paying 3-4 times the cost. It is cruel. Versus the rich bhi nahi, the more middle class one gets, the advantage is hugely in our favor.
It's
Short answer, sir. Yes, it is anywhere from 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah.
Eddie, I have a slightly different view, Eddie. In fact, I my own checks when I go to the shops. I love just going to small little shops and retail shops and checking out stuff. I actually believe it is actually cheaper to buy sachets than buy a slightly bigger bottle. And let me give you an example. It is actually cheaper to buy 2 rupee Nescafe sachets versus a 50-gram Nescafe bottle. It is cheaper to buy Dove shampoo on a 3 ml than buying the 150 or 200 ml or the 100 ml bottle. You can check it up for yourself. I have checked this up. And I guess the reason they do it this way is to first build this habit of using the sachet, getting used to the product, and then people at some point of time say, I'm not going to get the sachet, I'm just going to get the bottle, I'm not going to go every 5 days to get the sachets, right? And so as to penetrate. So I actually have a slightly opposite view on this. I'm not an experienced marketer. You've been in the industry for many years, but this is my little observation. The second thing I want to add, which is a subject of women uh, being the center of socio-economic progress. I actually believe that. My dad used to say this: you educate a woman, you educate a family. You educate a man, you only educate the man. And I think if you educate the women and they get into the workforce, uh, the family benefits in a much bigger way. And than just the man going for the jobs, and that results in a lot more productivity. So for the economy. So I, but But you're right. Looking at the government data in the recent survey that was published in 2020, I think it was data for 2019, the unemployment rates, and this is a surprise, for women in the last 7, 8 years, I think the previous survey was done in 2012, 2013. The unemployment rate amongst women actually fell across the country, and more interestingly, the unemployment rate in urban India for women is higher than rural India.
Yeah, the on both points, women first. The labor participation rate amongst women is now 20% all India. It's a ridiculously low number. So maybe 30, 40 years ago it was like that, but we had grown quite a bit. On the sachet thing, what happened earlier was, now speaking freely, where brands were very common, matlab everyone was using similarly over brands, so high overlap of segments. The sachet product would be lower quality than the big pack product. As simple as that. Then what's happened over time? People have segregated brands, customer segments by brands very well. So you'll find Dove का sachet actually मिलेगा नहीं, मतलब ढूंढ ढूंढ के ढूंढना मिलेगा. So they control, the premium brands control their sachet volume very tightly. And it is a bit of that sampling kind of thing. If you go to the mass brands where this game is at scale, like the Wheels, the Nirmas, and all, there you'll find the pricing is the way Sharad sir was talking about.
I just want to clarify, are you saying that sometimes they actually have a different quality of the same product in a sachet versus the bigger packs?
Yes, it was completely rampant earlier.
Oh my god.
What do you mean, oh my god? Where we are all playing in the stock market, there's like much bigger scams going on. Yeah, it is true. कोई deny नहीं करेगा, मतलब पर अभी उतना नहीं होता है because the brands have got segregated.
A lot of new stuff I've learned today. Thanks, man.
Amkesh bhai, Hemkesh, unmute yourself, please. Hemkesh bhai.
एमकेश जी बोलिए भाई, अनम्यूट करके बोलिए, एमकेश मॉल.
चले गए.
ठीक है सर, तो we can wrap up sir. No request right now pending.
Anybody wants to answer? Sorry, answer.
और सर एक डिस्क्लेमर ये है कि neither me neither any of the speakers are SEBI registered technical advisors. So whatever discussed has been discussed within the framework of a normal discussion. So please have due diligence before entering into the stock market or making any new positions. Thank you.
अब और किसी को, हाँ सादिक भाई बोलो.
सर ये मुझे ये पूछना था, ये रोल ओवर जो करते हैं उसका सबसे बेस्ट तरीका क्या होता है, क्योंकि दिस इज द फर्स्ट टाइम आई एम गोइंग टू रोल ओवर जो शॉर्ट पोजीशन है, तो मुझे आइडिया नहीं है.
कौन सा ब्रोकर में करते हो?
सर जीरोधा में करता हूँ.
तो चालू में क्लोज करके उपला सेम मोमेंट पे करो.
अच्छा, मतलब इसको सेल करके नया ले लूँ, बस उतना ही. ठीक है, ठीक है.
और अगर प्रीमियम ज्यादा है ना सादिक जी, तो तो सितंबर का मत लेना, नहीं तो सितंबर का भी ले सकते हो अगर लिक्विडिटी है तो.
हाँ, मैं सितंबर ही प्लान कर रहा हूँ, क्योंकि अगस्त में तो बहुत हार्डली कुछ डेज है ना.
हाँ जी, यानी उसमें अगर प्रीमियम का कोई डिफरेंस ना हो ना, तो सितंबर में की आप पोजीशन रख सकते हो.
और अगर 2-4 रुपए का फर्क है तो पे कर सकते हैं ना सर, वो तो कोई
अरे कर दो ना यार, क्या अभी.
ठीक है, ठीक है.
ठुकवाना है तो 2-4 रुपया क्या देखना है, अपने को एक सैचे का कॉस्ट लगता है.
हाँ सही बात है.
और आपका ये टेस्ला तो गया है ऊपर, अब क्यों चिंता करते हो?
अरे टेस्ला तो सॉलिड जा रहा है सर, मेरे को कहा इतना पोजीशन बनाने नहीं मिला ना, यहाँ पे रेस्ट्रिक्शन है. अभी यहाँ क्या $2,000 डालते हैं फिर वहां पे लेते हैं, तो इतना इतना ज्यादा तो नहीं बन पाए पोजीशन, लेकिन हाँ अभी तो बनाना ही है उसमें.
चलो, anybody, please. Otherwise, we are closing in 1 minute.
Yes, sir. We can close, sir.
नहीं, 1 मिनट रुक जाना किसी का
हाँ हाँ सर, आपके पास ही है बटन तो।
नहीं नहीं, हाँ आया, देखो एक जन का आया, निपुण अग्रवाल जी, बोलिए बोलिए भाई, निपुण भाई
Sir,
बोलिए।
your view on SRF?
नो यूज। और कोई सवाल है तो पूछो यार, स्टॉक के बारे में क्या। और देखो, मैं भगवान नहीं है, मैं एक मामूली सा ट्रेडर हूँ। मेरे को ज्यादातर सब शेयर खराब लगता है। एक कोविड के टाइम पे ये 1700 का भाव था एसआरएफ, फिर स्प्लिट हुआ और 5 टाइम, और ये अभी 2300 का भाव है, तो 11,500 का भाव है। बोलो, 1700 का 11,500 है। आप भी डिसीजन लो। अब कंपनी अच्छा है, मानना नहीं।
सर, इसके रिजल्ट्स आज आए थे तो इसलिए पूछा था कि कैसा लग रहा है आपको, या एनी व्यू?
नहीं कोई, अरे ऐसा तो 50 कंपनी का था रिजल्ट, कौन देखता है यार ये सब। देखो, एक बात समझो लाइफ में, ये जितना भी रिजल्ट आ रहा है, ये सलीम जावेद की स्टोरी है। जो भी दिमाग में आया लिख दिया। यस सर।
So one thing that I probably forgot to discuss was thermal coal prices, and the letter, the comment or the press release that was issued by Putin in Tehran recently. And I think that he made it very clear that he could go very aggressive in terms of, crude oil cuts and gas supply cuts to Europe. If those guys try and put a cap on pricing of crude oil, and so I mean that is something that is a uh, you know uh, it's a big risk, right? You can't put a number on that. What will happen, right? I mean, this guy is a madman, right? He can just cut gas supply for a few days. He could just simply cut off crude oil supply to the world market for a few days just for fun, because they are still earning more dollars today despite lower supply of commodity. That's one thing, and that is sending thermal coal prices up. Today, thermal coal prices are at about $400. It is higher than coking coal prices, surprisingly. And we know why coking coal prices are down, because of what's happening in China. But this has huge implications for cement companies in India, and because a lot of cement companies use either imported coal, or they buy coal from the e-auction, and the e-auction prices in India are closely linked to the international prices. But surprisingly, there was a recent statement made by in the Rajya Sabha. I don't know how many of you saw that. I was really surprised by this data. In the Rajya Sabha, the government, somebody asked a question that there's. I think this was on the 18th of July, not too long ago. Somebody asked a question to the Minister of Coal about India's coal shortage. Now, the answer of the minister, Prahlad Joshi, he says India does not have a coal shortage, and that India produced about 8% higher coal in 2022 versus 2021. And 8% is actually not a bad growth number. He mentioned something like 780 million tons, or almost that, versus 715 million tons in 2021. He further added that the production of coal in India is up by 30% in this financial year, starting FY23. That begets a question: Why did the government force state discoms to go buy imported coal if in the parliament the minister of coal is actually saying that India doesn't have a shortage of coal and that we're producing so much of coal? Seriously, shocking to me.
ओके
या
आशीष भाई बोलिए
आशीष भाई या संजीव भाई?
नमस्ते
ये भाई बाद में बोलो ना हाँ बोलो
हेलो
संजीव जी बोलिए.
Namaskar. I wanted to say something on the last discussion. I agree with Fact Finder. It is a fact. If in fact I have also checked many times, Nescafe prices are lower in terms of sachet, and most of the sachet prices are lower. So we need to understand why it is lower. It is lower because it is used not for sampling and getting used to it. It is done so that people who are living in clusters, say 10, 15 people living in a room, there if they buy a big bottle, everybody is going to use it. So they use it. One. Secondly, most of the people can't afford this. So sachets are for them only. But when you go into rural areas and bigger homes, there the same thing is used by multiple people. So that is why they cost higher. So I do not agree with Edie that this sachetization is bad.
वो चले गए वापस.
ये
Guys,
आशीष
तो
भाई नहीं
अ,
नहीं ये आशीष भाई का नंबर है
जी, नमस्ते नमस्ते शरद जी और बहुत बहुत नमन आपको and it looks feels very good today after that disturbing tweet.
अच्छा छोड़ो छोड़ो चलो
So, sir, first of all, thanks for all your advice. I've been listening for more than 6 months and keeping the notes. And because of the sincere advice given by you, I have paid the good amount of fees of my son of engineering college because of the advice you have given to me. And regarding the rural thing, I'm working in a retail company, not of the company which was of friend. And the rural area, the smaller areas, the people are still at panic, still come into the panic. People want jobs. Even the taxi walas, the major tourist centers, especially in northern of India, like in Punjab and all, the people, because of the inflation and all, people are getting free money from the even from the government, but they want jobs. So they want circulation to be go up. There are lots many disturbances at local level because of the political issues, which people suffered in 1.5 years in northern part of India, and it feels a very pain to the normal middle class or lower middle class strata in rural or semi-rural areas. So I agree with the point. The valuation of whatever the project in the stock market is not true. What is, I'm extensively traveling for 20-25 days for my company, and it is India's biggest company. So you're right. The condition in the whether it's automobile dealer or whether it's a taxi wala, very small kirana businessman, they're heavily dependent on the other people. And even for the large organized retailer in rural areas, the most of the things which is pushed is FMCG retail. So last 1.5 months, there are huge shortage of staples stocks in the market like pulses, rice, and all. I don't know why, but these surf and these Maggie they have been pushed in the market. So it's quite a dissonance at the lower level in all supply and demand. So thanks for your spaces, sir. That small people like us have made able to do some well-being. Thank you.
एक मिनट ये स्मॉल पीपल को क्या होता है
सर जैसे जैसे हम लोग जाते हैं जो जो टैक्सी जिन्होंने चला
नहीं 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 आप बोले ना हमारे जैसे स्मॉल पीपल
सर वो जैसे बस सर सुबह जाते हैं नौकरी करते हैं मंथ में जो है बस अपना काम करने की कोशिश करते हैं लिमिटेड इनकम सोर्स है और उसको इन्वेस्ट
नहीं तो स्मॉल कैसा हो गया साइज में स्मॉल है क्या
साइज में ही स्मॉल है सर साइज में स्मॉल है
नहीं नहीं
सर बट
देखो भाई
रियली
एक बात
जी
बोलता हूँ
सर
आपके ऊपर है कि आप स्मॉल है कि बिग है आप स्मॉल होके भी बिग हो सकते हो और बिग होके भी स्मॉल हो सकते
राइट सर राइट
मेरी एडवाइस ये है, जब भी बात करो ना, कॉन्फिडेंस से बात करो और खुद को नीचा मत दिखाओ,
राइट
स्मॉल मत बोलो अपने आप
राइट सर, नोटेड सर, नोटेड। राइट सर, थैंक
को।
यू।
और ये ये आप एफएमसीजी में हो या कौन सा लाइन
सर
में?
मैं रिटेल रिटेल जो रिटेल स्टोर्स होते हैं उसमें हूँ मैं।
नहीं मतलब वो क्या बेचते हो?
सर सब अपना ग्रोसरी होता है, फूड होता है, कपड़ा होता है। जैसे पहले
हम्म,
जो ऑर्गेनाइज रिटेल डीमार्ट है, आई एम नॉट इन डीमार्ट, बट आप समझ सकते हैं कि डीमार्ट के बराबर की कंपनी है, उस सब में मैं काम करता हूँ सर, उसमें काम करता
हम्म, हम्म।
Can I ask a question,
और
Ashish?
चलो जस्ट मोमेंट फैक्ट, हाँ, तो आपने बोला हालचाल ठीक नहीं है, ओके।
हूँ। जी जी।
आई वुड आस्क यू टू पुट इट इन परसेंटेज टर्म्स,
yes।
कितना हालत खराब है?
सर मैं आपको बताता हूँ जो अभी मैट्रिक्स इंडस्ट्री में यूज हो रहा है वो 2019 की सेल्स का मैट्रिक्स यूज हो रहा है। सो
हम्म,
2019 के सेल्स का मैट्रिक्स हम इफ वी लीव डी मार्ट, बिकॉज डी मार्ट इज एक्सटेंसिवली एक्सपेंडिंग इन नॉर्थ इंडिया। यदि हम
हम्म,
नॉर्मल रिटेलर्स को देखें जो ऑर्गेनाइज रिटेलर्स थे जो काफी टाइम से थे, दे हैव रीच्ड ओनली 50 to 60% ऑफ प्री कोविड सेल्स, जो कि इंडस्ट्री में नैरेटिव चल रहा है अभी। एंड
हम्म।
इवन इन फैशन ऑल्सो इट इज समवेयर इट इज 50 to 60%, इतना ही जो है एक्चुअल बेसिस पे इतना आता है। फ्यू फ्यू रिटेलर्स आर 80% ऑफ कोविड सेल्स, बट मोस्टली आर रेंजिंग बिटवीन 50 to 60% ऑफ कोविड सेल्स।
You're talking about volume terms or value
सर वैल्यू
terms?
टर्म्स, अभी तो वैल्यू टर्म्स का बात कर रहा हूँ।
Value terms.
यस
That's it.
यस यस
You sure about that?
यस यस, वैल्यू वैल्यू टर्म्स है सर, बिल्कुल वैल्यू टर्म्स है सर, बता रहा हूँ मैं आपको। The reason is that I tell you the volume of just a small data point. Since I'm not opening, I have not data front in my laptop. Oils, a soybean oil, which was average out for 80 to 85 rupees per liter. Last year we sold at even all India it is sold at 160 to 170 rupees per liter, and their value growth is 300 odd percent, but their volume growth is just 60 to 70% of pre-COVID. Now it has come down. Oil has again come down. So if you see the FMCG like HUL and all, they are keep pushing PNG and all. They are keep pushing very higher quantity packs in your in modern retail. You can say 8 kg Tide or 6 kg and Surf and all. Even in the last I think 3 4 months back, even Levers has pushed ketchup of Kisan ketchup of 1.5 1.25 liter of that, which has not succeeded. So these are the things that on the ground it is. I don't know how it will shape up in next one or odd year, but this is the thing that it is on the modern trade side.
No, you're
No,
right, Ashish, because Unilever actually mentioned that rural India volumes declined about 6%
Yeah,
or 8%.
yeah,
And I mean, Unilever is the most efficient, supply chain and raw material sourcing in the country.
right,
And they were able to only, they saw a decline of 6 to 8% in rural India.
right.
I'm guessing, regular people would have seen even, I mean, or rather unorganized would have seen probably a 10-12% decline. But your numbers are a little shocking to me, honestly. I mean, it's, I somehow still, I feel I'm not trying to question you, but I feel that you might be exaggerating. Maybe the truth is somewhere in between. I know things are bad, but if what you're telling me things are seem worse than I think
Yeah,
how bad.
yeah. Well, so same example like what you have told about the internet payment, like what is it's a prepaid of Airtel and all. So if you talk to general people in the last 2 years when they have to go online education for their kids, it's a very lower class and middle class people. They are more hurt by this recharges and all. The recharge has gone on exorbitantly high. And the same point, if you because we travel so much and we have to hire a taxi, we have to go in various places. सो दीज आर द फ्यू पॉइंट्स, लाइक इंटरनेट का रेट बहुत हो गया है, लैपटॉप बहुत महंगा हो गया था, उसका ईएमआई हम भर रहे हैं अभी. सो दीज आर ऑल दैट्स 10 to 15,000 odd per month, 20 odd thousand income people, which anyway has to connect to the internet to, if they want to for the education till 6 months back. So your point is right. This recharges is hurting. Most of the people are saying now.
एक मिनट, एक क्या बोला आप, लैपटॉप ईएमआई पे लेते हैं?
हाँ सर, सर जब ये कोविड आया था, तो नॉर्मल मिडिल क्लास जैसे हम लोग हैं, हमारे पास तो लैपटॉप था या फैमिली में लैपटॉप ले लिया, बट जो 25-30 हजार का इनकम का आदमी था, यदि उसको अपने एजुकेशन देना था, तो उसको तो फीचर फोन था, फोन भी लेना पड़ा, फिर इंटरनेट कनेक्शन ऐसा लेना पड़ा, और या तो सेकंड हैंड लैपटॉप लेना पड़ा, या फिर उसको ईएमआई पे लैपटॉप लेना पड़ा. एंड
सर मेरे यहाँ तो मोबाइल फोन भी इंस्टॉलमेंट में लेते हैं.
तो सर बजाज
15,000 का.
सर
15,000 का.
सब बजाज फाइनेंस के कार्ड में तो ग्रोसरी भी ईएमआई पे किया हुआ था हमने पहले. So
Yeah, Bajaj Finance, you can buy. They have a now EMI for even buying a shirt.
यस यस,
yes,
दैट यू आर राइट फैक्ट फाइंडर. वो उन्होंने टाई अप भी किया है स्टोर्स के साथ कि अगर आपको 5,000 से ऊपर का कोई भी शर्ट या ट्राउजर या कुछ ऐसा लेना है आपको शादी के लिए या कुछ भी इवेंट के लिए, तो इट कैन बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू एन ईएमआई.
तो मैं कल ही जाके लेके आता हूँ.
But you can't beat this, no? In the US, the buy now pay later companies introduce buy now pay later to pay for your pizza.
ऐसा ही चलेगा, ऐसा ही.
Quick.
Srinivasan, you wanted to say something?
Yes, sir. Just on Ashish Bhai ka very real on ground feedback hai. I think it rings very true. Fact finder, the cold numbers are COVID alone tipped about 5 crore people, not households, out of consuming class, or which roughly is 30-35 crores max. So 30 crore is probably a better number. So उधर ही 5 crore घट गया है. So I'm not I'm also shocked to hear the implied volume trend, but it mathematically actually it adds up. And this is what it means on ground. And what levers and all are doing this mal talk rahe hain. The oldest thing. Levers knows how to do this game. That's why their tone in media is changing. They're going to, by Diwali, they're going to not be a cheerleader for the general narrative, and they're going to put some what to their limited abilities. They're not going to play this everything is good story. They're going to say kuch chahiye. Same thing happened in July 2019, August 2019.
Srinivas, ये मेरे को समझना है. If Hindustan Lever dumps some stock onto the retailer, so and the retailer will only bill when it is sold, or after Hindustan Lever will take money upfront?
वो receivables में छुपता है sir. So initially we dump to the degree the distributor extends credit,
Okay.
and we loosen terms to the distributor. Then some retail payment happens. Then usually the CFO creates a different book where then wholesale dumping will happen. And iska shelf life, I mean, it's all related to shelf life of product. So in Coke, for example, because shelf life is 3 months, 6 months, the cycle is sharp. So we can dump, but we know अगला quarter में हमको
और
सफाई करना पड़ेगा. नहीं, सफाई करना पड़ेगा. So we start making negative noises as soon as we start dumping. In most FMCG, it takes 2-3 quarters. Then you have to start making noises. Things are bad, economy is bad, consumer is bad. तो अभी वो शुरू कर रहे हैं. तो मुझे तो दिवाली तक इनका और ढंढोरा बजेगा कि economy is bad, consumer is bad, because they have tons of pipeline now, and they'll do adjustments in their receivables and all. At least marketing वालों को तो पता नहीं चल रहा है कहाँ छुपा दिया.
Okay. TriStar, bolo.
I wanted to just say is Ashish, please join us more regularly. I think your insights are valuable.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
This was in regards to the
the question that the fact finder had, that why is India interested in India? I mean, imported coal. Well, the difference is, see, and about the coal shortage, that was a very interesting one. Because I remember when I heard about this, when it was spread across the media that there is a coal shortage in India. Well, I'll tell you, Indian coal is basically, it looks grey. And not only grey, the hard growth content and the gross calorific value is less than 3,000. So we cannot, Indian coal is basically used for small furnace and brick manufacturing. And that is the reason why they buy coal from lower Kalimantan regions. There is Indonesia. Indonesian coal has about higher gross calorific content, GCV. The hard growth content and the moisture content is also very good, which can be used for a lot of other industries, including power, thermal coal, and cosmetics. Now, one thing very interesting was we were just talking about Bajaj Finance entering into groceries, and sure, I've never heard of that. Well, that's very interesting. I was just in a conversation with someone this morning about decentralized finance. So, now decentralized finance system have been, now this also got me scratching my head that if you could buy perishable products with Bajaj Finance, in the same way,
चलो हो गया
अनंत आचार्य जी कजाकिस्तान से बात कर रहे हैं सर।
भाई इंटरनेट थोड़ा बड़ा मुश्किल है, आई मे नॉट बी एबल टू स्पीक, तो आई एम जस्ट लिसनिंग टू एवरीवन।
सर
अपन जब तक अच्छा आता है तो बोलो ना कुछ।
अच्छा आता है तो क्या बोलूं, गोल्ड अच्छा लग रहा है, 1680 का टारगेट लगा था, 1680 टच करके ऊपर जा रहा है। So inflation can shoot up because gold will follow inflation. So there could be one more bout of inflation. Gold classic ABC पैटर्न बनाने के बाद ऊपर जा रहा है, तो लुकिंग एट दैट मेरा डाउट है कि और एक पीक आएगा, इन्फ्लेशन का और एक स्पाइक आएगा ऊपर में। नंबर वन। नंबर टू, लुकिंग एट क्रूड ऑल्सो 88 89 तक सपोर्ट लेके ऊपर चला। अब जब तक 88 89 नहीं तोड़ता है तो it is also looking bullish. So these two are likely to actually send the markets down. Equity, but equity अभी तक clarity नहीं है. Let the markets turn, then only I'll be able to say something about it. But my long-term view still holds. Current there's a uptrend, but then this uptrend may not last long. Apart from that, what else?
बजाज क्या लगता है?
बजार तो एक दो दिन और रुको, मंडे तक क्लैरिटी आ जाएगा। अगर 16,500 के ऊपर कितना है आज देखा भी नहीं है, इतना मार्केट निफ्टी का देखा ही नहीं। 1 second, let me just play this up. 16,500 16,600 आ गया तो then you just, this is looking like it should find a resistance before this last earlier top जहाँ पे आया था। मोटा मोटी वहां से जो ब्रेकडाउन हुआ था वही लेवल टेस्ट करने आया है। आई वुड रियली वॉच आउट, ये जो गैप पिछले 2 दिन का गैप है, इफ इट ट्रूली स्पीकिंग ट्रेड अभी तो अपसाइड ही करना पड़ेगा, वो गैप का अपसाइड को स्टॉप लॉस लगा के। बट देन व्यू इज बेरिश, सो अभी तक तो मैं साइडलाइंस में ही बैठा हूँ, बिकॉज एबीसी एक्स एबीसी कंप्लीट लग नहीं रहा है इधर। सो still looking at a market to break the previous day's low, तब तक तो ये तेजी में ही रहेगा। प्रीवियस डे का लो जिस दिन तोड़ेगा उस दिन सीरियस डाउनसाइड चालू हो जाएगा फिर से। That's my view.
और किधर से बात करते हैं?
Too early to change the larger trends of so quickly.
अरे किधर से बात करता है?
मैं आज हूँ एक अक्साई करके एक गांव है इन दी नॉर्थ वेस्टर्न रीजन ऑफ कजाकिस्तान। It is very close to the southern border of का city है समारा करके रशिया के उधर हूँ आज. So I am going to about 6-7 countries this time. पूरे जितने स्थान है सब स्थान घूमने के लिए निकला.
तो यूपी में आता है क्या?
यूपी, कजाकिस्तान, उज्बेकिस्तान, अजरबैजान, तजिकिस्तान, किर्गिस्तान, तुर्कमेनिस्तान, ये सब नॉर्थ ऑफ इंडिया में आते हैं भाई साहब.
वो अफगानिस्तान के बाजू में आता है सब.
यूपी से थोड़ा ऊपर है, ज्यादा नहीं, थोड़ा ऊपर है, बस 2-4 हजार किलोमीटर ऊपर.
बस ठीक है. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू एंडी. डॉक्टर अमित.
गुड इवनिंग सर.
गुड इवनिंग.
आज तो मिस कर दिया था थोड़ा सेशन में ना, क्योंकि व्यू में तो कोई चेंज है नहीं सर. मेरा वही है, खराब ही है मार्केट. हर वीक जब भी हम स्पेस करते हैं नया नया इंडिकेटर, वो भी मैक्रो में ऐड होते जाते डाउन साइड प्रेशर के लिए. तो ठीक है, अभी चल रहा है, खींच रहा है ऊपर. तो देखते हैं कब तक जाता है. जो मेजर में 2 ही इंडिकेटर अभी ट्रैक कर रहा हूँ कि उनकी पास्ट हिस्ट्री है कि उन्होंने 20%, 30-40% मार्केट को क्रैश किया है. उनमें से एक है 2 ईयर यूएसए यील्ड. आफ्टर 2008 क्रैश इट नेवर सस्टेन अबाउट 2.9% यील्ड, मगर ये पूरे मंथ में वो 3 के अप है अभी. और दूसरा डॉलर इंडेक्स है, वो भी जब भी 102 के ऊपर रहा है तभी भी प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट किया है. तो वहां पे कुछ चेंज मुझे दिख नहीं रहा, तो मेरा व्यू तो कुछ चेंज होने वाला नहीं. अभी देखते 2-3% इधर उधर हो सकता है. अभी टाइमिंग ज्यादा ले लिया है मार्केट ने, तो उसके तो नहीं, वो तो चैलेंजिंग है कब रिवर्स होगा. बस वही है अभी तो व्यू. डेटा पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, जो फ्यूचर के जो भी स्टॉक है अभी, वो 84% दे आर अबव देयर 20-day EMA, एक्सपोनेंशियल मूविंग एवरेज, जो पूरा एंटायर एफएनओ स्टॉक के 84%. तो अभी ये 2002 ईयर में जनवरी में हुआ था, तब रिवर्स हुआ था मार्केट. 84 के अब जब भी जाता है, इस ईयर में तो हुआ ही है, पास में भी ये काफी बार देखा गया है. तो जनवरी, अप्रैल और मई उनका जो भी टॉप है, वहां पे ये इंडिकेटर मुझे मिला था. जरूर नहीं अभी वही चलेगा, मगर पास हिस्ट्री के हिसाब से टेक्निकली इट इज लाइक ए ओवरसोल्ड, ओवरबोट जोन. सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट सर, नथिंग एल्स न्यू.
Very valid point. Makes me start thinking. और बोलो भाई. और किसी को बोलना है?
नो रिक्वेस्ट पेंडिंग सर.
Okay, then good night everybody.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, sir.